Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the August 20th City Council meeting. I would ask that you silence your phones and then we'll get started.
Richardson.
Here.
Garza.
Here.
Magers.
Here.
Goff.
Here.
Bass.
Here.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This morning, Daryl Peterson will be leading us in prayer.
Good morning.
Morning.
Are we ready to pray? Dear Heavenly, most gracious Father, we come before you and we thank you, Father God, for this city. We thank you, Father God, for the city. It's a blessed city. It's blessed coming in, we're blessed going out. And we thank you, Lord God, for this day. We thank you, Father God, for all the events that is involved within this city. That, Father God, it'll be a good event. People will participate in these events. And, Father, we just thank you for so many things. We thank you, Father God, for the blessings of the council members and the leadership and the new leader, Father. And we just thank you for wisdom and guidance and understanding. And we just thank you for these things. And we give you the praise, we give you the glory, and we give you the honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I'd like to ask one thing. My wife's in the hospital. It's not good. So agree with me.
Thank you, Daryl. I will pray for her and would encourage those that heard that to pray for her well-being. With that, we have something on the agenda that says special proclamation. It's been kind of a mystery surrounding this, but we wanted to honor a longtime city employee. So if you'll meet me at the podium, Jim, and bring your family with you. Congratulations. Thanks for being here. I'm going to read a proclamation that staff has put together honoring Jim Seator, a long-term city employee that is going to attempt to retire again this year. So, whereas Jim Seator has served the city of Hutchinson with remarkable dedication, first as downtown development manager from November 1997 to February 2004, and then as downtown development director from October 2005 to July 2018, and stepping into various leadership roles throughout his distinguished career. And whereas Jim answered the call of public service not once, but 3 times during his return in May 2022 as interim planning director during a critical time for the city of Hutchinson. Whereas Jim has provided invaluable guidance and expertise on housing, downtown development, and strategic planning during his tenure, drawing from years of experience and deep commitment to the city's future. And whereas Jim's leadership style embodies partnership, empowerment, and visionary thinking, helping to lift others up and inspiring them to lead with courage and innovation. And whereas Jim's impact has reached far beyond City Hall, with his tireless efforts reinvigorating the heart of our downtown. His advocacy for long-term growth benefiting the entire Hutchinson community, with his mentorship leaving a lasting legacy for future generations of leaders. And whereas Jim has been honored with numerous awards, including the Director of the Year recognition and a Governor's Award of Excellence from Kansas Main Street in 2009. And whereas the city of Hutchinson is grateful for Jim's unwavering dedication, leadership, and service, especially during pivotal moments when his wisdom and guidance were most needed. Now therefore, I, Greg Fast, Mayor of the city of Hutchinson, do hereby proclaim August 28th, 2024 as Jim Seator Day. So, congratulations. I've got a few words I'd like to say, and I just, don't you go anywhere. We're gonna and all the rest of it. But if it wasn't for Jim Seator, I probably wouldn't be standing here before you. He encouraged me with my project downtown, and there's so many things that nobody even knows about that Jim Seator does for this town, and is behind the scenes talking to people, and so I am very appreciative of the friendship you and I have had. So anyway, the mic is yours, and so is the pen and the key to the city.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. Have a few words.
Well, thank you all, and having me at the microphone and such a busy agenda is probably not a great thing, so I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but I've enjoyed every minute of working for the city of Hutchinson and all the people I got to work with over the years, and I thank them. I'm so excited about this new team that's put together. They're going to do great things for the community, and thank you, council members, for supporting the work that they do. It's so, so important. And I've had the great fortune of working with a lot of great council members. And without that, nothing really happens. So thank you for what you do. So excited. Thank you all for being here. And I'm going to kill Dave and Matt for putting this together. Thank you.
Hey, council.
You know, I failed to thank the most important people, my family, because they let me spend a lot more time working and when I could have been with them. So thank you all.
Like to take a minute and welcome anybody from the audience that would like to visit with us. You may address the council as long as it's not relating to what's on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, we'll call on you then. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. So, any takers? Like we have Mr. Strong. All right.
I'm not sure if the land purchase and the subdivision and the building things that the city's considering doing is on the agenda today. Is that on the agenda? I just
No,
printed it off.
No, it's not.
Okay, well, let me see what time. Okay, so I was having breakfast with a friend of mine last Sunday, and he was mentioning that the city was going to get in the land development and housing business. So he said they came to the county commission to ask for funds for some infrastructure. So I went home and watched the TV and the meeting, and Mr. Elrico was there and was talking to the county commissioners about what their plans were and things, and well, it was a pretty lengthy conversation that they were having, but they were, it went to a 3-2 vote, and there was a lot of conversation from the county commissioners about the city getting into the land development business and building houses. And Mr. Enrico, am I saying that right? Enrico, didn't happen to mention that, you know, we were opening up a subdivision on 43rd that this appears to me it's going to be direct competition for my subdivision. Because I had to quit watching the TV when the price range of the houses, if I'm right, it was about $220,000 to $300,000, and I thought I'd better shut my TV off before I threw it and had to go buy a new one. So, so I went to the county commission, picked up their business cards and called each one of them yesterday, and they were kind of surprised that, and I was kind of surprised that the county administrator apparently didn't know about my subdivision on 43rd Street. And so I called each of the county commissioners. The county commissioners, 4 of them didn't know about my subdivision on 43rd Street, which is a huge investment on my end. And so they mentioned a lot of concerns about that. So I guess I'm kind of here just to figure out what's kind of going on, because I believe that they are getting ready to purchase some land about 12th and Hendricks. We built some houses on 11th Street there, and so they're getting ready to maybe purchase that land, and then apparently they're putting out some kind of a letter where they want to have builders build houses on that, so in the same price range that I am. So I'm just kind of wondering how that was going to be funded, and if there were going to be special assessments. And really, I'm kind of surprised why the city wants to build houses in Hutchinson, Kansas. I guess that's kind of a question. I don't know if anybody can really answer that, and why they really want to be in the land development business in Hutchinson, Kansas. I mean, I've got a list of, there's probably 10 guys on here: Jim Groover, Jim Nuns, Jim Davis, Jim Strong, Dick Dillon, Lynn Lackey, Dave Friend. All those guys are developers. I don't know of any of those guys that would be interested in seeing the city come in and start developing land and building houses and compete with the builders. And to me, this is a heads-up competition for my subdivision.
Well, I would say we're not going to be building houses. We are going to engage you all your builders, to say, come build these houses.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing.
Has anybody bothered to call any of the builders to see if they have any interest?
We are early on in the process, so you will be getting an RFP on this project.
Same. So in other words, you're going to develop the land.
We're going to purchase the land.
Mm-hmm. Who's going to put the streets and improvements in?
The city.
The state. So the city of Hutchinson's not paying for any of that. I'm just surprised because the city went to the county to ask for funds for improvements. They're asking for $200,000 from the county. Well, hell, I just spent $200,000 in engineering fees on my subdivision, and nobody told me that there was a rock out there that I could uncover to get that $200,000 for my subdivision. And it just appears to me as though we're just going to be head-on competition. Why would I go to your subdivision and build when I'm worried about getting my own built out? And you can call these builders that I mentioned their name. You know, I can go on about subdivisions that never got a finished, and when they sold, like, what was that, Quail Ridge up on 43rd, they finally had to start selling those lots. Those lots were probably easy $35,000, $45,000 lots. Mm-hmm. They were selling them for $2,000 just to dump them. You know, Jim Nuns sold the Rolling Hills out there. Went off at auction. Those are $65,000 lots. Those sold out there for $1,000, $2,000. Mm-hmm. I just don't know, if you want to build houses, why don't you go to where you preached everybody else to go, and go where there's already infrastructure. Go where there's building sites that have sewer, have water. It's already paid for. There's no special assessments. There's no cost to that. Go in there, find some very affordable floor plans, and then put those out for bid and give them the lot. Because I don't know, I don't know what are the lots going to sell for. Anybody? We're too early to figure that out. But have we already purchased the land? I say we because I got tax statements about that thick. So now I'm going to be supporting my competitor, the city of Hutchinson, in the land development business.
Well,
And I got a whole lot of land. I don't know why the city didn't come to me and ask me about land. I've already got land already platted. You don't even have to plat it. So, I don't know. Is that my 5 minutes? I think my 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'm going to the county commission at their next meeting and have a visit with all them. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else here would like to address the council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right quick, my name is Bill Houston. I'm a retired Army Command Sergeant Major and a member of Post 1361 and have been a lifetime member of the VFW since '94 when I retired. I got out of the service and went to Wichita to be a junior RTC instructor and taught 18 years. Moved here in 2013 and I was a substitute teacher for the school district. God, what a beautiful, wonderful district you have here in that. We have a little, it's not a problem, but it's a little issue at the VFW concerning a little piece of land that's just north of our building. Are you familiar with where our VFW is located?
Yeah.
We're just north from the edge of the building, just north, I guess about 50 feet, 40, 50 feet maybe. About 50. There's a little piece of land there that we have built a concrete piece there that's 18 by about 30 feet, 36 maybe, that we were going to put an outside building to extend there since we voted out and eliminated smoking in the VFW. So there's no more smoking in the VFW. We washed the walls and the ceilings. It's quite nice. Come down and visit. Please come down and visit. But we spent $1,000 on a survey over that little piece of land, and Vern Craig is our chairman of our committee, and we're trying to get that little piece of property that was surveyed back in 1950s. Nobody claims it. We don't know who owns it. Some people say the city does. We just don't know. But before we can go on forward to spend any more money, which, by the way, we're like everybody else. We're scrapping just to pay the bills and keep the lights on and pay our bartenders and staff and whatnot. But before we can move on with this project, we've got to know that somebody's not going to come in and say, well, you should have done something different because now you got to tear this up. Then that's the tune of about $10,000. And quite frankly, Mr. Mayor, we would just like to have the city's support so that we can go on with that project. It used to be a white fence that was around that, if you can recall, and we took that down because it was so ratty looking. But we left the little 4x4 holders in the ground, and all we have to do is just put it back, which, by the way, runs on the new survey on an exact line from what we are thinking maybe that the city owns. And we cut and maintain and mow the grass, because I've been doing it since 2013 when I got here. We keep that area cleaned all the way up to the ditch, to that bankment that goes up to the overpass. So if there's any utility requirements to come in to work on the light poles or anything like that, it's nice and clear. There's no problem. Come to our parking lot, right down through there, do what you need to do. And so what we're up here today is just to ask that look into it and see what it is that we can do, or just a piece of paper saying go for it was all we need to have.
All right.
So
we certainly can do that, and Matt Williams is your guy. He's sitting on the front row there.
which one is Mr. Williams?
I talked with Mr. Williams.
Okay.
Yeah, we thank you for your bringing that up, because sometimes it gets to the point that your wheels are spinning, and that's where we are right now. And of course, this is August. It's going to be September, October, November. It'll be winter time, and we'll be sitting looking at a slab sitting there and whatnot. But,
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Please contact me directly. I'll try to get you an answer and get you some help so that we can say yes, no.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, you're a busy man.
Well, I'm not that busy, I promise.
That young man right over there he can speak for you. I know you're busy.
Well, Matt, if you would take care of that, I would appreciate it.
We appreciate it. And
All right.
thank the council. We really do appreciate it. It's all right, sir. We're going to depart the area.
Okay, very.
We just wanted to.
Do you have
speak.
anything, Stacy? You look like you're ready to speak. All right.
Thank you for changing to non-smoking, and I applaud the efforts that you guys have gone through recently.
Right quick, that was the biggest thing since I've been here. I've been trying for all these years to get that out of there because I was raised in the VFW. I mean, as a little guy, and learned to dance with my stepmom, and when my dad, I have 30 seconds?
Yeah, sure.
My dad, I'm born and raised in Carthage, Mississippi. My dad and my uncles and all their friends built the VFW post there when I was little, right on the Pearl River, up on the hill. Beautiful place, but I was raised there. Couldn't go in the canteen where the big boys were, but dancing and all that. And we've got that back. Get on Facebook, look at it. The steak night, we got $15 steak night. You can't buy a steak raw for 15 bucks. So come
right.
down and visit us, and we really appreciate it. I'm off my horse. We'll
All
see
right.
y'all later.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Anybody else that would like to address the council this morning? Be happy to listen. Next item, please.
Consent agenda.
Anybody have any questions on the consent agenda?
I've read it. I have no questions. I
I
move
have
to
no
approve
questions.
the consent agenda and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Magers.
Yes.
Goff.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes. Next item, please.
Public hearing. Public hearing to consider structure to be unsafe and dangerous at the Atrium Hotel.
I need a motion to open the hearing.
I move to open the public hearing.
I'll
I'll
second
second.
that.
Richardson.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Magers.
Yes.
Goff.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
All right, good morning, Mayor and Council. Matt Williams, Director of Community Development. On July 2nd, Council approved a resolution setting a public hearing today on the condemnation of the Atrium Hotel and Conference Center. This public hearing will begin with a staff presentation by myself and a recommendation. Following that, we'll give the opportunity to the owner or representatives of the property to speak, and then we will have a chance for public comment. So the Atrium Hotel is located at 1400 North Lorraine, and it closed its doors on December 20th, 2019. Water and electric utilities were shut off the following January, and the fire suppression system subsequently burst, flooding a large portion of the structure and property. The majority of the structure's electrical system has been stripped, and in 2022, oil was drained from a power transformer that led to a dangerous spill with environmental ramifications on the property. The flooding of the property led to black mold throughout the building. There are also multiple broken doors and windows. Since closing in 2019, the atrium has been repeatedly broken into, resulting in the need for the city to board and reboard up the building. Also, since closing, the property has been the location of over 350 police and fire calls. When a property falls into disrepair like this, the city can send nuisance violation letters to the property owner in an attempt to remedy the situation. If issues are not remedied, the city can abate certain issues like tall grass or boarding up the windows and doors. In this case, numerous nuisance violations for the property have gone unresolved, requiring the city to abate many of them ourselves. And this has resulted in an unpaid balance of the property owner for nearly $4,000. When a property becomes so bad that it is unsafe and dangerous to the community, the city can condemn the property and require it to be repaired or demolished. The Atrium property is a blight on the city of Hutchinson, and all of these factors I have described have led to staff declaring the Atrium Hotel and Conference Center to be unsafe and dangerous as defined by city ordinance. The photos I have today are from the city inspection of the Atrium on June 21st. As you can see, staff wore hazmat suits due to the large presence of black mold. I've got a couple examples of what the exterior of the structure looks like. The windows are boarded up. You can see the roof is in disrepair, and so is the parking lot. broken windows, doors open to the public. Here are some photos within the hotel rooms. As you can see, all of the beds and furniture remain in place, and you can see the black mold there along the wall. Here's an example of some stripped electrical panels. Here's an example of the internal hallway, just where the hotel rooms are. You can see the ceiling is, caved in. There's debris everywhere. Here's an example of just the internal corridor at the conference portion. Here's an aerial view of the roof. Should the city council condemn the structure, there is an option per city ordinance to require property owners who request to complete the demolition or repair of their building to provide a cash bond in the amount of the estimated cost to demolish the structure. Our estimate of cost for demolition and asbestos abatement is $2 million. The cash bond would be returned to the property owner if the rehab or demo is completed within a designated time frame. If the property owner fails to start the repair or removal of the structure within that time frame, council could then require the structure to be demolished. The cash bond would be used by the city to complete the demolition. I also wanted to provide an opportunity for our police chief, our building official, and fire marshal to say a few words. So I'll give them an opportunity to speak.
Bryce Burley, police chief. I wanted to take a minute just to kind of talk about the effect of the Atrium on law enforcement, in particular the Hutchinson Police Department. As what was referenced a second ago, the Atrium, as far as calls for service goes and incidents that we've had at the Atrium, since January 1st, 2020, which was just about 10 days after the Atrium closed, we've had 350 calls for service that were handled by law enforcement themselves. This can lead anywhere from doing a building check, broken door where it looks like somebody maybe entered the building, hearing voices inside the building, just damage to the building as far as thefts, burglaries, calls like that. Just to kind of give you a frame of reference about the amount of calls, obviously I think it's easy to see that 350 calls is a lot of calls for service over basically a 4-year time span. So during that same time, I checked the stats for the surrounding hotels. We have 5 other hotels in the geographical area that are relatively close. So 350 calls for the Atrium between that January 1st, 2020 and then August 11th, 2024. In that same time span, we had approximately 114 average at the other 5 hotels that were in that geographical area. So and those 5 hotels are operational. So there's a lot of people in and out, a lot of customers, different types of activities that are going on. So that amount of calls is not abnormal. What's abnormal is when you have a vacant building, there's no business going on, and we have 3 times as more calls inside that building. It kind of goes back to the whole broken window theory inside, law enforcement. If you're not familiar with that, building structures like this that have broken windows that are in decay, obviously it doesn't appear that it's being taken care of or looked after. It fosters crime, which the incidents would show that. So the fostering crime part, like I was talking about before, the type of calls that are happening there, they can range from the simple calls that we would get, somebody's ripped off plywood and most likely somebody's made entry into the building, to where another call we had to make entry into the building because there was juveniles underage drinking in there. Other calls of individuals squatting and living inside there, which is obviously highly dangerous because of all the black mold that's inside the building. One particular call that I would like to share with you all that we had to deal with inside the Atrium. Back in end of January 2021, officers had to go to the Atrium. An individual had heard voices inside the Atrium. He also believed that there was cars inside the Atrium that were being operated. Officers had to force entry into the Atrium, where they discovered 2 vehicles actually inside the Atrium and 4 individuals. 3 of the individuals gave up quite quick. They followed law enforcement's commands, and they were taken into custody. The 4th individual, and you got to remember that we're inside of a dark structure, not any lighting. Officers are going in there not knowing what they're getting ready to deal with. And we have a 4th individual that won't follow the officer's commands. The individual stares at the officers, won't follow their orders, and then stares at them long enough and then gets inside the car and starts to drive through the actual hotel, trying to make his way out. He went into another part of the hotel, and officers were able to get him stopped there. He stayed inside of his truck, and it escalated to the point to where we had probably roughly 20 to 30 officers inside that building. The reason for 20 to 30 officers is due to the fact that the size of the building is so vast to have it completely secure and knowing who you're dealing with. So I'm telling you 4, but they don't know at the time if it's 10, 15, 20 people. The individual failed to follow the commands, so the officers began to fire beanbag rounds through the back window to try to get the individual to comply. After about a 20 to 30 minute standoff with the show of force, and then through de-escalation techniques and negotiations, they were able to get the individual to come out of the vehicle. The individual then finally came out of the vehicle and then surrendered to the officers. There was reports, and the individuals were arrested for burglary and theft, because what they were doing is they were parking the vehicles inside the atrium to load it up with property. They were going to steal everything inside the atrium that they could get their hands on, whether it's furniture, air conditioners, whatnot. They were also in there using methamphetamine while they were burglarizing the building. One of the individuals admitted to sleeping with another individual inside the atrium during the same time. And the reason that the individual that was not wanting to surrender to law enforcement officers, he was currently on parole, and he didn't know what type of sentence that would bring him, and he was not interested in going back into prison. He had thoughts of suicide by cop to make sure that he didn't go back to prison, but luckily the officers and their actions de-escalated that situation. Obviously, if this building wasn't in the state of decay that it was in, it was an actual operation, a business being operated, this situation might have been avoided, along with the other 350 calls that the law enforcement has had to go there and deal with. The calls for service then takes away officers from the street. Like I said before, to go clear this building, it would take, depending on the type of call, you can go anywhere from 10 to 20 officers to effectively clear the building. And it's sad to say, but I actually have a standing order with my officers that we won't make entry into that building unless it's a life or death situation. And the reason for that is because of the black mold and the other hazards that are inside that building. If I'm required to send my officers in there to deal with that, I'm putting their lives in danger. Now, understand this, you know, they swear to lay their lives down if they have to. But why would we have a building like this where they have to unnecessarily expose themselves to the dangers that are inside just because that building exists in the condition that it exists? Safety of citizens. Kids are kids. Kids like to go into abandoned buildings. They like to snoop around and look through there. We're exposing our citizens inside this building as well. There's obviously a cost associated with it. The officers that you have to pay for to go there that are funded by the taxpayers. And then the time they have to go in there, they take away from the time that they could be engaging with our citizens here in Hutchinson and taking care of them. It's an unfortunate situation that needs to be dealt with sooner than later, because I'm afraid if it's not, somebody's going to lose their life inside that building, whether it's a citizen or an officer or another first responder. You have any questions for me? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Council.
Morning,
Michael
Mike.
Kane, Division Chief of Community Risk Reduction, Hutchinson Fire Department. My friends call me Fire Marshal. I've been asked to talk about the fire life safety aspects of the building, what it would take to bring it back up to usable. But due to the amount of damage and the renovation needed on this building, and you've seen the pictures and the videos of what it looks like inside, this building would need to be brought up to the current code that we follow, the 2018 code. That's going to involve the use of engineers and architects to establish what's existing, and if what is still existing can be salvaged, and then is what's already in there up to code. So we'll talk about the two biggest items. Of course, the sprinkler system. It failed the frozen pipes in 2020. So we already know that the piping for that sprinkler system is going to need to be replaced. We just don't know to what extent. City manager asked me to see if we could put some numbers to it. So I talked to my trusted sprinkler company who specializes in retrofit of old buildings. They said it would take, first an inspection of the system that's already in there. Then it would have to look at the design. The design for this occupancy, is it or was it up to code for a hotel? How much of the piping needs to be replaced? The heads, the sprinkler heads, most likely are due to be replaced. That's generally a 10 to 15 year replacement cycle for those heads. So we know those are probably ready to be replaced, and that's if they were even the right heads for, I would make the assumption that the heads that are in there are not the current code heads, the quick response heads for residential occupancies. And then the sprinkler company's biggest thing are there concealed void spaces throughout the hotel that were not addressed when it was built or when the system was designed. They would not give me a firm number without being in there, but they said you could start at about $6 to $12, depending on what needs to be done per square foot. I have in my records about 107,000 square foot building. So we're looking at 650 to 1.2, just to bring the sprinkler system up. Now we keep talking about the codes. So when I came into the office in 14, we were still under the 1997 International Fire or Uniform Fire Code. I have no idea what code this was built under, but in looking through different buildings throughout town, I know there were some funky sprinkler systems back in the day. Mr. Mayor pointed that out in one of the buildings we just walked through, where certain individuals went in and said, you can put a head here, you can put a head here. I have no idea. So that's going to be one of the biggest things to overcome in this hotel. The same goes for the alarm system. Talked to a trusted alarm company, and he said they had the contract on the hotel when it was shut down, so they're familiar with it. But he said at the time, the smoke heads that they had in there were obsolete, and should be replaced. He said, however, if they are working, they can still work. But to find replacement heads for the ones that are in there would be about $1,000 per head. just to replace them, or because they're so hard to find. Again, he wouldn't come right down and give me a number of what it would take to bring that alarm system back up. He said that the wiring, the alarm wiring, should still be good. That's if any of the wiring is still there. So those are the two big ticket items. The smaller items, and to bring it up to code, are going to be, does the exiting and the stairwells, are they up to code? Are the stairwells, rated? Are they still enclosed? And as you saw in the one picture, there's the rooms in a portion of it have glass walls to look out. Is that glass rated? Today's code, that it would have to be rated glass. And again, this is where the engineers come in. The problem is going to be getting engineers in there, because as you can see, for us to go in there and just take a look around, we were in full hazmat suits. I don't know an engineer that carries around a hazmat suit that's going to go in and evaluate this hotel. And then the little things, emergency lighting, exit signs, those are all on their own separate circuit. How much of the wiring is left in the building to do that, so just another added cost to get those done. And then we get right down to the little things. The extinguishers. Are the extinguishers up to date? Well, if it closed 5 years ago, probably not. So these are just some of the issues that are going to have to be looked at. We, from a fire inspection standpoint, have not been in to truly inspect that building since it closed. Once it closes, the fire inspections inside stop. But we can see all the damage, so we know this stuff is going to have to be done and taken care of. So.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
I'm Mike Post. I'm the intern building official with the city. Just to kind of echo on everything everybody else has said, the building is a blight to the city and to the neighborhoods surrounding the building. I have been in there, been out there, seen what the thieves have done to the transformer. They basically got in the transformers, stripped out all the wire. I have been in the electrical room. It's just going to take a lot of money to get it back up to code. The rooftop units on top of the building have all been stripped of the copper. None of those are operational, so they'll all have to be replaced. Like Mike said, the sprinkler system froze up 1 year. Of course, all the water lines inside were never drained, so I'm sure that there's domestic water, like to all the rooms and everything that are frozen, have frozen pipes too. So that would be another issue, getting all the plumbing up to code. And basically, I think the building's totally uninhabitable now and an unsafe structure. So that's pretty much all I got.
I do have a question for you, Mike.
Yeah.
There's several violations of lawn mowing and boarding up of windows. The $3,900, that seems like not very much money for what all's been done out there.
A lot of that stuff, I know they have been doing some of their own mowing.
Okay.
A lot of ours is board ups on the
Okay.
windows. I mean, we board up the windows, we go by there, we get reports, well, a couple
Board
of
'em up,
doors
yeah.
or, the plywood's rolled off of them. We have a board up company that goes out there and we'll board them back up, screw them shut, and then we get the bill for that, which we forward on to the property owner.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
All right, well, as you can see, city staff believes that the atrium and hotel and conference center is beyond feasible repair. is unsafe, poses a danger to the surrounding neighborhood, and should be condemned as an unsafe and dangerous structure. Staff is recommending the property owner be allowed 30 days to repair or demolish and remove the condemned structure and all the construction debris, and that October 1st, 2024 be the next date that City Council reviews the progress on the rehabilitation or demolition. We're also recommending the requirement of the cash bond. So now we'll give an opportunity for the owner to
Okay.
speak, unless you had any questions right now.
No, I don't.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. I came into this town when the hotel was in a bad shape in 2013, when it was owned by the bank, and I bought it out in an auction when it was this shape or even worse than the shape that it's currently now as a closed building. In 2013, when I bought it, the city had a special tax assessment for the building, where we had because we have a convention center. As soon as I came in, the hotel was leaking and everything. I put in $3 million of my cash into the property, put in new roof, put in lot of renovations. The outside windows, took out those chiller systems which used to cause leaks and all, put individual ACs in all the outside rooms, spent a lot of money. Came back but at that point, though the city was collecting the money for the Atrium Hotel Convention Center, which was being given for the last 15 years, was stopped. So I did all this work, and it never regained back, because they said that they're evaluating the property to see where we go from it. So at that point, I said to them, hey, I can put as much as money into this property. It's very old. It's not going to be feasible. So I brought in a new plan to demolish 3/4 of the building and put a new hotel. That's in 2014. I came and presented to the city managers and city council. At that point, they said, Josh, wait, don't go ahead with that plan, because we want to do an RFP and see if we can let others come in and also propose some things. So in 2016, they proposed, they did an RFP, and when they sent out the RFP, I was the only one who came back with a new hotel proposal to demolish all the rooms and build in front of the hotel convention center a new Holiday Inn. About 14 million was the amount at that point to build the hotel. And I didn't ask anything from the city except that they restart whatever the convention center used to be made before. Still, maybe because I'm from Dallas, maybe because I'm from out of town, I don't know what is the reason, but the city never, they went, even after the plan was done, after the RFPs were closed, they went back to this company called Leisure Hospitality and made a side deal with them to do the contract, even after the date was gone. And then they came back and said me in 2018 that, hey, we're going with Leisure Hospitality, but we'll buy your property out. And they sent me a contract in 2019. And when when I got the contract from the city, and I knew I'm not going to be able to do anything with the building anymore, I shut the building down in 2019 December. Obviously, I let the city come, the city council, the city mayor, the old city mayor. At this point, I think all of you are new, and the city manager right now is new. But I've dealt with, I think, until the previous city manager, I've dealt with everybody. and the city council and the city managers, and everybody knows the situation. So I was literally forced out of the place. I still pay my property taxes. I still maintain the building. I still send people to board up the building. We did the whole boarding here and there. When people break in and enter, that's when the city has to go and board up. When I don't get the notices in time, or if I'm not in town. I know you all are talking about black mold and things like that. In 2020, there was a freeze. The pipes burst. Before we left, we had emptied everything, but there was some water in the sprinkler pipes which still burst and poured. I've been to the property multiple times in the last month, and so when I also came and visited the city in the last 2 months, I walked the property in and out everywhere. I have no mask suit. I'm still alive and well and good here. I also have, the mold. What they're talking is in that 1 or 2 rooms where the rain, water was, or when the windows were open, so it's not all over the building like it said. But at the same time, I brought in, my architects from Dallas, and we walked the building to see what we can do, because we had a couple of proposals from the city and outside the city for church, for because the convention center is still, it was built in about 12, 14 years back, and it's in a solid shape. The rooms are old. So, and the convention center, because it's 15,000 square foot of open area, yes, the copper is gone, the electric gone, but those things wouldn't have been able to be used anyway before. I'm a builder. I built already in the last 5 to 6 years in Oklahoma City. I built 7, 8 hotels in Dallas and Oklahoma City, brand new. And so I know what the building will take to remodel. Since now this thing has happened, I know for sure the city has washed its hands away from this property. Recently, y'all gave $18 million with bond and everything, to the new hotel project, which could have easily been in here. I was always in open line conversation. So I was literally duped out of the city. Made me wait, had contracts over contracts, and it's coming now. Even the old mayor, the city manager, many times came to my office, and we would discuss, and they would say, yeah, it's happening, just to put me in the wait, on the background, just making me wait all these years, expecting that the city really needs that land and needs the property and would want to do something. If possible, to have a next slide. What I'm proposing is, it's up to y'all what y'all can. I have a next slide if you have. Oh, sorry. On this next slide, what I'm proposing is we fence the whole building from front to back, the whole building. We fence it up. In the front, we leave the big banquet area, which is more than 15 to 20,000 square foot space, which is in this area. I'm proposing to separate that from the existing building, sell that or lease that because it's an amazing structure with no damages, brand new carpet that I put in 2019. It still looks brand new. We put new AC, we put new plumbing, we put everything, and lease or sell that to different companies that is interested in that part as a storefront for different stores. And the back, I would like to gate everything up, have different access points into the building, and make it indoor-outdoor storage building. Like, they are hotel rooms, so they are pretty much 28 feet by 13 feet, good boxes. I could remove it and put the real storage. I could put the plans soon enough for you guys, since I just started to do this, and make that a revenue producing property, divide that two, keep the back area for indoor-outdoor storage, like remove the doors and windows and put real storefronts all around the property, where everybody, where it'll be gated and they can have direct access to it. And I'm proposing to do all the new, the new codes, new plumbing, new fire, whatever is required, new electric, to get it functional and back to revenue properties. Also, I was proposing, when I talked to the city manager the other day, that if I could, if the city council, with all this money that I spend in the property, and you're giving everybody else, you have a property that could have been many uses right there, which nobody ever worked with me. But if you all will work with me and allow me to be able to get compensated, or the city trash, where I can throw all the trash, will come immediately, send contractors and empty the complete building, so there will be nothing inside it except the walls, and then start to work on it. And where, if I can have throw the things, throw the trash, compact it and throw it to the city trash. And if you all can approve me so that I won't have expenses to throw the trash, everything else, I'll spend the money and get the property back to where it's supposed to be. And if you all have any questions, I'm here to answer. That's my proposal.
Is there anybody else here, lien holders or anybody else, to speak on behalf of you?
I have, I still have a loan on the property, which I pay every month, just like I pay the property taxes and every other bill. I have no pending dues. I never knew about this $3,900 that is due. If I'd seen the bill, I'll pay it, or I'm ready to pay it anytime. And if you all approve my plan, I'll need 30 days is too less to do anything. I'll need at least 2 or 3 months to finish the plans, but in the next 30 days, I'm sure I'll be able to fence the whole building and protect it completely, and then start talking to the different places, to the city and the planning commission, to show exactly what my engineers draw and how we plan to do.
All right. Anybody have any comments, or is there other folks that would like to address the council on this matter?
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have a question real quick. There's a lot of history here.
Yes.
That many of us weren't involved in. So was there, when you shut down in, I think it was December of 19, what were your future plans for the place at the time?
At that point, I had a contract with the city, and there was no point for me to hold it, because the city said they were buying it and giving it to Leisure Hospitality to redevelop the land.
So I got on city council about a little over 2 years ago. At the time, there was an offer on the table.
Yes.
To purchase the property, and then there was an environmental assessment, and there was asbestos found, and we adjusted the pricing for that difference. We never heard back in regards to, hey, here's what we adjust, and there was no response, and so we just moved on.
Yeah, no, that was the second city manager, and he sent me, I didn't have any phone or any conversation, but I received a text, and I sent back. I was like, at that point, I told the city, hey, 600,000 may be too much, because I had a contract for 1.6 million, and 600,000 to do abatement was too much. And I said him, at that point, it was just still a conversation where I asked him if I could abate, I could hire people to abate the property, which would cost much lesser, than when a city goes to get a contract. And after that, he said he'll get back to me, and and the next time I knew, that's each time it's a new city manager comes and everything was changed. And I mean, from that time till now, I never had any issues. We negotiated a price, and I agreed to the price, and they came back after that abatement price, and still I agreed to it, with the permission for either for me to demolish it, or for that 1.6 and just pay me for my demolition, or give me an opportunity to abate it, and they never did.
I'm going to ask another question that I'm sure is going to come up. So your plans for the property, how come nothing's been done for 5 years on moving with some type of development or securing the property or trying to get it to where it's not continuing to go into decay?
I haven't done it because I thought the city is going to buy it no matter what. Because even 2019 and 2023, when you all were discussing about the new hotel, at that point also I was thinking, I was told that they may consider my property. I never knew that, in the end, it turned up to be another property and not my property. And I just want to, there's a lot can be done in the property. The front can be developed, as a storefronts, and the back as a storage building. I think I'm not here like all these other big companies come and ask you all for 18-20 million to do a small project, which literally you all are building for them. I always asked for, just what was given to the property, just something small, but I have no idea why I was always denied. And that cost, that caused me not to come back and look at anything. I would just say, have my representative here go mow the lawn, do the boarding, and check on the building. And anytime any letter I got from the city, immediately I would send them to reboard it. And sometimes before they come, it boards up, or if they do something, then I would. But I always thought the city, since they already made the deal, something would happen. So that's why I never spend too much money to do anything different in the property. Now that I know everything, all doors are closed, I brought my my architects and engineer here, and we walked through the building, and this is what we got proposals. And there are people from the city and from outside who has been calling me because they want those the convention center to build it as storefronts, and that has other than changing the AC and putting new plumbing for the toilets, there's absolutely no damage to that. It looks brand new except for a little trash in there. It's a solid building.
There's almost $4,000 in outstanding. Is that all on one bill, or are those a series of bills from?
I have no idea, but I can pay that right now before I leave the office. That's.
It would save us a stamp if you paid it today.
Pardon?
It would save us a stamp if you paid it today.
Yes.
You made some really bold claims today that in 2013 that the property was in worse shape than it is today, that there's been communication, that there's been contracts, but you're standing here without any proof of any of this. Do you have any email chains or anything that would substantiate your claims?
Many emails I can forward to you all if you'll give me your email. The city has 1,000 conversations with me, and that you all will find from this old city council what all they approved and how many times I came to the city, how many, you know, the projects that I put forth. The buildings were designed and completed by Beverly design firm in Salina. I always believed in this town. I always believed in that property. But then I moved on and started doing other new projects because it was they were very friendly, but when it comes to putting the signature or signing or paying, it never happened. But everybody else was getting approved for whatever amount. It was just me.
Well, Joshua, I think it's a very bad mischaracterization that we handed another developer $18 million to build a hotel. That's not how this all works, and you know that. We approved.
It's the problem. It's
it
the
is
overall. Whatever I heard from the news is what I'm saying.
And not to interrupt, Stacy, but you mentioned Hayes or Salina. You're going through this same thing in Hayes and Salina. I'm sorry.
Hayes the hotel land was sold to the city, and we built a road. I still own the lot, but the city bought and built a new road for Hayes.
Well, and I believe Hayes and Salina have both had to do what we're doing today. So, you know, we talk about history and past history. We can talk about that. And
yeah, I mean, there's a lot more people like me in big towns, so we don't have this problem. There's very few people like me in the small towns, so we have this problem. You know, and these were big old properties in those days that, you know, I didn't buy them brand new or I didn't build them. They were bankrupt properties that I bought. But everybody has a way of coming up. And at those days when I bought these big junk properties, you know, those were my starting days where I used to, where nobody else would buy them. I mean, this property in 2013, when I bought it, was owned by the bank for 6 years. Nobody did anything with it. Nobody bought it, you know. So I know, you know, when a person, you know, when you buy old big buildings in these areas where small towns where nobody else wants, things are happening. But at the same time, when it comes, when a person already invests the money and puts in their sweat and blood, you all don't do anything for that person. But anybody from a big city, from Kansas City or somewhere comes who looks and talks like you all give them 15 million, 8 million, 10 million easily. You know, it makes it's just an education part for a city. You know, it's not easy for people like me to break through in a small city, because
I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that you moved on to other properties, more other projects. And it sounds like the turning point for you was, and I didn't live here at the time, but when there was some kind of incentive that ended from the city for that property in particular. It sounds like when you purchased the property, your presumption was that that incentive would continue into perpetuity. And when it ended, that's when you essentially moved on to your other projects.
No, it didn't end. It was held. The city was still collecting the money, but it was put into the coffers and just not given to me. And until now, I still think y'all are still collecting it. It was a 3% city tax that was collected for and I'm sure somebody here will tell you that that amount is still being held aside, which was for the building, which was until 2024 was the contract.
We do collect a tax from hotels, but they have to be active and have people staying there because the residents pay the tax. Is that what you're referring to?
No.
Council, let me fill in the gap for you there.
Please do.
Okay. What he's talking about is the transient guest tax.
Yes,
there was 3% dedicated to the convention center, what was then the Grand Prairie. but it was dedicated to that developer because the developer built the convention center and the transient guest taxes were to reimburse him for his expense in building it. And then any future transient guest taxes beyond that, beyond reimbursement, were for the maintenance of the convention center. When Mr. Joseph bought it, he was not the developer. He didn't build the convention center. There was no reimbursement to him because he didn't incur that cost. Now, we did have a separate contract with Mr. Joseph for improvements to the convention center. And he was required to make those improvements and provide a receipt to the city, and we would reimburse him for those. And that was some of those HVAC units that were on the roof and other proposals. But that's as far as it went. But that's what is the issue with the transient guest taxes. He was not going to receive those. He bought it out of a receivership after the hotel went under.
And council, excuse me, if I may, there was a comment made about the black mold and that it was only in one or two of the rooms.
I hadn't addressed that yet.
But I had personally been in the building, and so I'm saying this in the event that anyone is watching this for the first time, that I believe we went into 44 rooms that day, and around 80% of them had a heavy presence of black mold. It wasn't just one or two rooms. And so that would be a mischaracterization of what it looks like on the inside. So I say that because public trust and public transparency I value high. And so I definitely think that that needs to be cleared here. It's not just one or two rooms.
Another thing, I walked into the building. I've seen, but I'm not going to refute that fact. But at the same time, if we are doing a storage or anything of that sort, we'll be pulling out all the sheetrock and back to its bare bones, and then putting metal around it and metal doors. So all that will be gone if y'all give us a chance to remodel it.
Any other comments from community members or staff or, yeah. Please come to the podium. Thank you, Mr. Joseph.
Chris Shank over on good old Mission Drive. I guess I'm thankful. I know Doug's here. I've had the opportunity to meet Doug before. He's somebody that lives directly across the road and has to look at this every day. I just have to look at it as a business owner on two sides. And I know him and I think some of the other folks from over there, they've got to look at it every day. And just some notes I took and just thinking about this. I've been around that building 25 years ago. I worked at the Microtel as a student at Hutch JUCO. Back then in 1999, that was one of the fanciest places in town. We used to, when that would be full, then they'd come over to the Microtel. In just the time period of my life, that place has gone downhill incredibly. I mean, I think about even 2013 when they took over. I think about when we built Hutchput in 2017, there was a strip of land between Hutchput and the hotel that was, up to my knees. And I started mowing it. And Dad said, stop mowing it, because once you start mowing it, they will never mow it again. They stopped mowing it. And that still is taller, and I'll get out. And that was clear back before they even vacated the premises as far as it being open. I guess you mentioned the stuff going on in Hayes and Salina. There's been a series of other hotels owned by, and like I said, it's not personal against the owner, but just places that they didn't take care of. And, the cities have had to take action to make something happen. I guess my questions are, where were all these ideas, beforehand? I mean, now when the city's holding your feet to the fire, now all of a sudden, oh, we can do this and that. I guess the other thing too, you think about how many commercial properties are in town that are available to lease space. I mean, we've got the Hutch Mall sitting out there, or Uptown Hutch, or space. I mean, there's plenty of places for development. So, I mean, the last thing in the world this town needs is more strip malls. But I guess the one question too, and I didn't get the chance to ask, but I mean, I know you've been developing stuff in other towns. It's like, I think you said moving on. Why didn't some of this money get spent here? And I guess somebody that owns radio stations in other parts of the state if we own a building or a station in another part of the state and I'm not there, I have to go above and beyond to show the community that I care about them and put money into that business. And so when you are an absentee or further away landowner, I think you have to show the community you care. And I mean, I think.
You didn't hear when I said I was on contract for sale, and that's what I expected, and that's why I let it go.
But I guess the thing that I think we're past the point of, I mean, I think there's been plenty of time. The city's moved slow. I mean, there's been plenty of opportunity for something to happen. Nothing's happened. I'm thankful that stuff is finally happening, because I just think that if we give more time, it's what's to say it's not going to look the exact same, 30 days from now. And I
anyway. Certainly understand that, and I don't think the police calls to your location was probably included.
Yeah.
In that.
And that's one thing I appreciate you bringing up, Mr. Mayor, because I'm going to say there was probably, at least in the last, since the hotel closed, even before the hotel closed, I can't tell you how many times I've had staff call me, and they call me first before they call, because high school kids don't want to call 911, right away. I easily had over 100 times in the last 4 years them call me, hey, there's stuff going on at the Atrium. What do we do? And for the longest time, I just said, don't worry about it. But then, it's only been this year that I told them every time there's something, start calling. So, I mean, that just started here in 2024. I mean, so there's been, 7 years of me getting the phone call, there's weird stuff happening, what do we do? And I've just kind of, I guess I live in Hutch for a reason, because I know it's a safe place, so I haven't really worried about it, but I just have seen it continue to deteriorate. But I guess, mostly I just want to say that I'm glad something's happening. I hope something happens. And I know hopefully I'll let you guys talk. So anyway, thank you for your time. Please do something. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Jackie Long. We live at 1329 North Lorraine, directly across from the Atrium there at the corner of 14th and North Lorraine. And I want to echo the thanks for your leadership in dealing with this issue and moving right along. We asked for this several years ago, and it appeared to be too much work and maybe too early to do it, as there might have been communication. Thank you very much, Police Department, for answering our call. I want to thank the community, because it's the community that has continued to call, and then the city and police respond to keep that building looking as good as it does. Okay, have you seen Salina, the hotel there? You know what I'm talking about. So we have been surveilling that property for all these years, and I have to tell you, I have photos. Each time someone is over in that building, I go over there. Just about 2 months ago, earlier this spring, there had been lots of activity. People from Oklahoma City, I believe, several vans, loading up all kinds of things that had been left in the building, mattresses, carpet. So if you want to know about safety, I know personally I walked in there to talk to the gentleman about the trash they were leaving in the front parking lot after they were done rolling up carpets, to ask them to pick up the trash, and they did later on. But I can't imagine what good the carpet is in the convention center, because I saw it, and all these people were risking their health in there removing this stuff. Lots of stuff that had evidently not been of use to the other people who were stealing all this time. The building is dark at night. I can't even imagine how they got vehicles in there, because we have been watching, but you can't even see across the street. We have delayed lately calling the police because we don't want them to get hurt. It's not worth it. I have personally stood in my front yard and watched as teenagers tried to get into that building, testing every door. Okay? Enough is enough. I don't know where the reality is of Mr. Joseph, but the things that we witness across the street do not equal that. And this community, the police, our neighbors have managed to keep us relatively safe by our vigilance. That's the only way we keep our community safe. Now, the city, they've had to paint gang graffiti, board things up. That's the only reason it's as safe as it is, and I appreciate that. But I'd like to actually see an dollar amount that accounts for the surveillance and the police providing a private security force for that building. And I'm pretty sure that $3,500 doesn't cover even the work of the building staff. And we have watched, you know, all this concern about how the property works. It was interesting. Just a few weeks ago, suddenly there was interest in mowing the yard and, you know, the grounds around there and doing the weed eating and my. Okay, so thank you for moving ahead with this process, and hopefully that will no longer be an eyesore. We have a lot of people driving by on Highway 61. Don't forget that. The view isn't very pretty, which is why we really stress getting the gang graffiti off there. Okay, so people from our community, including my husband, they walk around that hotel all the time. There's a reason they do that. Okay, so thank you very much.
Mrs. Long, I just want to say thank you, and I'll apologize for me. I don't know where the other council is, but I'm sorry it's taken this long. I'm sorry.
Just glad you're on it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And sorry that hotel could not, you know, in an environment where we have these national opportunities, people coming to our town, the college bringing in particular, all of these national events. All these years, people have had to go to other communities to attend those. We needed a good hotel. We still need more good hotels. And so we've created a situation where there's been a lot of inconvenience and hard feelings, I'm sure, about what is going on in Hutchinson, Kansas. So let's just move on, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to address the council?
I wasn't going to say anything. My name's Lindsey Charles. I live at 1306 East 14th. I've lived there since November of 1969. I've watched this. I was in law enforcement for 40 years. And what I see over at that hotel, I could never have imagined when I moved here in 1969. The individuals who gather around that area and then come down our street stoned, it's just ridiculous. And I really appreciate y'all taking this under consideration to get this problem taken care of. I thank law enforcement, the fire department, everybody else, but it's really an issue that needs to be taken care of. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any further comments? Stacy, I know you had much more to say.
I actually think I covered most of the things that I wanted to say, except that, you know, I appreciate the drawings that you brought with you. And I understand that this property was at least one point a big investment, and it is something that you still have a lien on or a mortgage. But it doesn't seem like you've brought your A game, so to speak. These drawings aren't full-fledged plans or anything like that. And they're still very reliant on the public trusting you to do business here in the first place. And building a strip mall with your name attached to it, I don't believe that the public's going to jump on that as an opportunity for new businesses to go into and that sort of thing. I think the condition of the hotel in its current state, there is no public trust for you here, simply because of everything that has happened over the past, 10 years. And it would have been nice to see receipts or contracts or anything that would back up what you're telling us is your side of the story, but you haven't brought us anything, just expecting us to take everything on your word. I support the 30 days and the cash bond recommended by staff. It sounds like this is pretty much the only way to move forward with this.
John, were you finished with your comments?
A lot was said. I don't know how much of that I trust. I don't think the city is going to be a good business partner for you. I say that. I question some of the information. I would ask if it was shut down in December of 19 and a PPP loan was approved in April of 20, which you have to be required to state that you're in business as of February 15th of 2020, and you list 53 employees on your payroll, I would question how much I trust the information you provide.
You know, PPP loan also is to pay the loan off.
Well, I understand that.
Just a loan.
I don't know if you took the funds or not, but the application was filled out and it states on there that you have to say that you're in business as of February 15th, 2020.
You guys do whatever you want with that footnote.
I'm just saying it's a fact that I would question, and I would question anything that you say.
Okay.
I think that ends that.
With that, Steve, do you or Scott have anything to add that might be pertinent here? If not, a motion to close this public hearing.
Well, I was around back in those days. This is my fifth year, and we did give them plenty of opportunity. I was one of the council members that walked through that building. You guys, we have, as a council, and the past council has given all opportunity. And I'm one to try to be fair to everybody, even if you're an underdog. If you can prove that you have, do the best you can. In my point of view, like I said, I try to be fair to everybody. He hasn't done the best he can, and I'm afraid we have to do something about it. So,
I guess I'm coming to everybody's what they've said as well is like, you know, you look at it and you kind of go, he's had all this time to resolve these issues. I own multiple commercial properties in town, and if I had let my stuff get in this disarray, and I don't think the city would be near as lenient as someone, you know, my business, I guess. And so I feel like we've given him plenty of time to address these issues, and it's just interesting that he shows up now after we've issued basically a hearing saying you got to show up or we're going to, you know, take care of business. It's unsafe for our community, our first responders, and we just need to, I guess, address the issue and move forward and do what we need to do to take care of it.
And I guess we're going to have to use that stamp.
I don't think he'll be writing us a check today.
Well, he has plans due tomorrow to the city of Salina for his project up there on what they're going to approve. I just throw it out there. It's an interesting situation, but I just don't trust it to partner with them on any more development.
I was not aware of the PPP loan.
It's listed publicly. You can look up the PPP loan for that and the one that was forgiven for the Salina facility.
I forgot about that, but yes, you are correct. I remember that as well.
I'm the same way. I knew that, forgot about it. Thanks for bringing that up.
You know, the other thing too is like, he comes here today and you'd think we're going to believe him on his word. You know, why did he not bring documentation? I mean, something supporting what he's going to do or what we've said we were going to do, I guess.
I think, and we can continue as we move on to the resolution, but I think we probably ought to move this along by closing the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Richardson?
Yes.
Gardner?
yes.
Yes.
Goff?
Yes.
Best?
Yes. Next item.
Consider resolution condemning an unsafe and dangerous structure within the city of Hutchinson located at 1400 North Lorraine Street.
Do we have any additional? Let's just
No.
move on.
We're allowed. I'm certainly.
Matt's put in a lot of
getting it.
work. Let's let him say what he wants to say.
I would say we don't have anything additional. I could just repeat the recommendation to you if you'd like. Here we go. So here's our recommendation. Staff is recommending that the City Council approve the resolution to condemn the atrium as an unsafe and dangerous structure, that the property owner be allowed 30 days to repair or demolish and remove all the condemned structure and all construction to be with the requirement of the cash bond, and that October 1st, 2024 be the next date that the City Council reviews the progress of this structure.
That's what staff's recommendation is. And any discussion on that? Do we need to tweak that? Do we want to go with their recommendation as it sits?
I'm fine with it as it
I
sits.
have a question for Matt. Thank you. Moving forward with this, what level of involvement is required, or participation or cooperation from the current owner for us to move forward with these plans?
For us to move forward with these plans, we would give him the 30 days to put up the cash bond with plans of what he's going to do. And then we would bring that to council on October 1st. If we never hear from him, then we'll bring that information to you on October 1st to move forward.
All right. Any other questions from council?
No.
I move to approve a resolution condemning an unsafe and dangerous structure within the city of Hutchinson located at 1400 North Lorraine Street and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second that.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Megan, yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8B, consider resolution determining advisability of issuing industrial revenue bonds on behalf of Meyer Landmark LLC.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. Meyer Landmark LLC is requesting that we issue a resolution of advisability of issuing IRB bonds for the project at 5th and Main. It is going to become a 36-unit complex with 24 units being moderate income housing and 3,400 square feet of commercial space on the main floor. They are requesting the IRBs in the amount of $14 million, and this is just part of their funding mechanisms. I hate to steal Dave Sotelo thunder. He has 2 other items about this under new business, expanding more on the project. So because they are not requesting property tax abatement on this with their IRBs, there is no public hearing. This is not a formal public hearing. We did not have to publish notice or notify the county or school district. They are only using IRBs for sales tax exemption purposes. So we still go through the process of passing the resolution advising the IRBs. The IRB sale will probably be closer to 2026. It is going to be a long project, so they will actually issue them upon completion. As a reminder with IRBs, there is no risk to the city. We are not obligated to pay the debt. We do not pay any expenses related to issuing the IRBs. It does not affect our bond rating. So it is pretty low risk for the city. So city council and legal counsel advise adopting the resolution to determine the advisability of the IRBs and authorizing the mayor to sign any related documents.
Anybody have any comments? Anybody in the audience like to speak to this? Any comments, council?
No.
All right. I'll stand for a motion.
I move to approve a resolution determining advisability of issuing industrial revenue bonds on behalf of Meyer Landmark LLC and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item 8C, consider resolution to hold public hearing for establishment of a star bond project this year.
Good morning, council. We have a slide for you, so I'm gonna wait for staff to get that up. All right. Good morning, Dave Sotelo, Strategic Growth Director. Today we're asking you to approve a resolution to schedule a public hearing regarding the establishment of the Hutchinson Star Bond Project District. This hearing is a critical next step in our efforts to stimulate economic growth and develop key areas of the city. The purpose of this resolution is to officially schedule a public hearing where we will discuss the establishment of the Star Bond District. This public hearing will take place on September 17, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. In the City Council chambers. It's essential for the public to have a chance to provide input on the significance of this project, which complies with state law under Star Bond Act. So I have a video for you here that I hope plays from the Department of Commerce. This is a video where they explain sort of how communities use Star Bond projects, and I think it's really helpful to understand how other cities utilize this and just really explaining that process for you.
Here are some frequently asked questions regarding the Kansas Star Bonds program. Sales tax and revenue bonds, more commonly known as Star Bonds, were established by the Kansas legislature in 1999 as a financial tool for cities and counties to aid in the development of major commercial, entertainment, and tourism areas or attractions. Bonds are a financial tool used by municipalities to help raise capital for major projects. The bonds are purchased by private investors, allowing the municipality to raise needed funds without increasing the taxes of its citizens. As the Star Bond project attracts new visitors and generates sales, the tax revenue generated from the new visitors is used to pay off the bonds. You can contribute on the success of the program. Kansas residents have a chance to comment on proposed projects during public meetings. A city or county partners with a developer and identifies a potential Star Bond eligible project that can generate enough sales tax revenue to pay for the bonds. Star Bond financing must be less than 50% of the total project costs. Kansas Department of Commerce validates that there is enough capital investment, then determines whether the proposed district is Star Bond eligible and whether enough visitors will be attracted. Commerce then approves the project plan and determines the maximum amount of Star Bonds that can be issued. Smaller rural communities have lower investment thresholds and more flexibility than large city projects. The city or county provides a summary of community support and issues the bonds, creating a debt reserve fund for instances when the sales tax revenues are not high enough to make the payments. Investors can then purchase the bonds. The bonds must be paid off within 20 years. Taxpayers are never on the hook for the bond payments. To be considered for Star Bonds, a proposed project must be characterized as a statewide regional destination, include high-quality entertainment and tourism attractions, and improve the quality of life for the community and region. The project must contain unique features and increase out-of-state tourism, generate significant positive and diverse economic impacts, and be capable of sustainable development over time. Proposed projects' benefits must exceed public costs. A Star Bond district is a defined geographical area where the new sales tax revenue will be generated that pays off the bonds. Boundaries are drawn to include the attraction and adjacent revenue-generating businesses. Base revenue of the district is determined, and existing sales tax revenue continues to go to the state general fund. Sales tax revenue generated above and beyond the base revenue is tracked. The revenue generated from the new visitors is used to pay off the bonds. There are currently 16 Star Bond projects at various stages of completion and repayment throughout the state of Kansas. Star Bonds are an important tool that allows local communities to attract new visitors and new revenues to Kansas, while improving the local quality of life for Kansas residents. For more information about the Star Bonds program, visit kansascommerce.gov.
That was a good presentation. Did you put that together yourself?
Yeah, I did. As I mentioned, that's from the Department of Commerce, the state. So just a little overview here for you. For those unfamiliar, Star Bonds are a financial tool authorized by the state of Kansas that allows cities to use future sales tax revenue to fund major development that promote tourism, entertainment, and economic growth. Star Bonds have been successfully used across the state to revitalize communities. And we're eager to do the same here in Hutchinson once again. You might remember that Stratica used Star Bonds in 2006. If you look at some studies done by the state auditor's office through Fort Hays, you can see some of the data collected from the Stratica Star Bond And it's one of the most successful in the states that has been paid after the creation of the star bonds are paid at this point. So we've had some history of doing this in our community, and excited to do it once again. So I just want to make some things clear here. The star bonds are not backed by the full faith of and credit of the city. Star bonds are a special obligation bond and are backed solely by the incremental sales tax. So it's really important to know that the risk of the city, or the lack of risk for the city on this. I also want to mention this, when we hear star bonds and we're funding through sales tax, it can be confusing for folks. And so no additional taxes on residents. This does not create, it's not an extra sales tax or any other tax being created to help with the development of this project. It's just recovering that sales tax that's created when more visitors are coming to our community, redirecting that future sales tax revenue from the state to the development of the district. Again, existing sales taxes remain unchanged, and the bonds are paid off using new sales tax revenue from the development, making the project self-financed and not burden on the taxpayers. So I want to give you a little bit of highlights of some of the projects that we're hoping that this project will fund. So one of those is the Cosmosphere, expansion and remodel of some of their existing facilities, and the total investment around $5 million for renovation, including updates to the grand lobby, restroom, exterior facade, and more. And we have some really cool drawings that we'll eventually make public. You've already seen some of this work that we announced last week on Monday. But you will be able to go to our website and see some of this project plan as we move forward. But today we're just scheduling that public hearing for that. We also have the Memorial Hall improvements, upgrading stuff like HVAC system, remodel restrooms, and other improvements to make Memorial Hall and increase usability and attract outside visitors. And the last part here is the $14 million total investment to transform the Landmark building. So that's how much the project will cost. Not all of that will be funded through star bonds, but really excited and a core for our downtown. So I want to make a mention on your agenda packet. You have a map and a legal description. So Friday, we made some tweaks to that map and legal description, so I'll show you here in a little bit. It's really a small change that we're adding to the district. But generally, the districts will be located on 17th Street, 11th Street, and Main Street. So where the new development of the project is going, and east of that project, on 11th Street where the Cosmosphere is, and then on Main Street. We're special, and the Department of Commerce recognizes that, and they have allowed us to have 3 different districts. Normally, if you saw the video, it's usually a district and then the adjacent location. But in this case, they've given us permission to have those 3 different districts that are not connected. So I'll show you the first part here is the property of the Cosmosphere on 11th Street. The other part of the district here is 17th Street, and you can see, if I can get the pointer. Oh, I don't have that. So you can see just on the left side of the screen. Oh, here you go. On the left side of the screen, this is where the hotel will go. There's some restaurants in this area. We can go in east on 17th Street. We have some understanding that there will be some redevelopment on this part of our community, and so we are deciding that ahead of that for as part of the Star Bond District. The change on your legal description and your map, this parcel was not included, but we are including it as we hope for that area to be redeveloped soon. And lastly, you'll see here, this is Main Street, so it covers around the Landmark and then south to the Memorial Hall. So this is a continuous district here. We're scheduling the public hearing for September 17th, as I've mentioned before, at 5:30 here at the City Council chambers, where residents and part of the project staff can present to you what we're planning to do in that area. The resolution authorizes the public notification in compliance with the Star Bond Act. And I'll ask Dominic to step up here to the podium. Dominic is our bond counsel with Gilmore and Bell, who's helping us through this process. and he can answer the hard questions, as I mentioned before. So what we'll do now is send public notifications once your motion is approved through certified mail, publication on the Hutch News, and on our website. We'll then hold a public hearing on the scheduled date, and following the public hearing, the City Council will consider adopting an ordinance to establish the Star Bond District. And I'll let Dominic talk a little bit about what comes after that's done, and just generally his insight into this project so far.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave, and good morning. Dominic Eck with Gilmore and Bell, special counsel for this project. As Dave mentioned, step one of Star Bonds is creation of a district. We like to think of a Star Bond project in 3 major steps. You've got your district creation, you have a project plan approval process, and then you have a bond issuance. So each of those steps along the way, we'll get to come back to you multiple times for multiple actions. So for this first step of district creation, you have this resolution to set for a public hearing, and then you'll have an ordinance following that public hearing to actually create the district. As Dave all mentioned, the next step in the process then goes to the project plan. Now, project plan, you get into more details. So the Department of Commerce will engage a third party to perform a feasibility analysis for the proposed project. They get much deeper into the weeds of looking at projected revenues and what are the actual project components, et cetera. Along the way, the city is working to develop what is called a project plan, which will incorporate portions of that feasibility study that Commerce commissions. Prior to any action by you all, once that project plan is completed, the city's planning commission will need to weigh in and say, yes, the plan here is in general conformance with the plan for the development of the city. After they do that, after the feasibility study is complete, after that project plan is ready to go, we'll come back to you and we'll say, hey, we got another resolution to set another public hearing, so that we can then have a public hearing on that project plan, which will include much more detail than is in the current Star Bond District Plan, is in the current resolution that you have before you. So the first step is we've got to get this district put together, and then we can set what's called that base value that Dave mentioned in the slideshow there that he artfully put together. And that is the base value above which any incremental sales tax would go to repay any bonds that would be issued again at the end of the process in step 3. So just to recap, we're in step 1. Step 1 has 2 steps, or two components, the resolution and the ordinance. So that's what we're here today for, the resolution. September would be the ordinance, and then we'll move on to getting into the nitty-gritty details, getting that feasibility study done through Commerce. We'll come back, have yet another public hearing, because again, it is an engagement process to provide plenty of feedback opportunities for the public along the way. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Timeline for all of these 3 steps?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's going to depend a little bit on that feasibility study that is selected and engaged by Commerce. It's always, it can depend on who they select. They've got a list of 5 or 6 providers. Some are quicker than others. So I would say that's kind of the key piece of when that comes in. Along the way, while they're engaging that provider, while they're getting the data that is necessary to perform that study, we'll be working on the rest of the project plan particulars, so that as that kind of gets completed, it gets incorporated more or less seamlessly, and then we're ready to take the next official steps. The other important piece to remember about timing for the district creation, you want to get that base set, before any of the new businesses open. So that's what we're doing now. When it comes time to issue the bonds and kind of have that project plan approval, you want it to be close to when that project is going to open, so that you don't have a gap where your clock is running but you're not generating any revenue. And so even if that second step, the project plan, if we get that completed in really short order, you might still see a little bit of a delayed time frame before you take that third step, just as you work to maximize revenues, maximize bond proceeds, et cetera.
And Dave, you didn't mention, but the star bonds were paid off, I believe, 3 years early because of the success we had of that one that we did in '06. So.
Yeah, correct. The previous City of Hutchinson star bond issue did pay off early.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions?
Really, that's all I have on our end. This is just the first step on scheduling that public hearing where we'll go into more detail for you and explaining that a little bit. I do want to thank, and I'll let Angela Richard steal my thunder any day. She and a lot of the staff has put a lot of work to make this happen, and there'll be a lot more work as we try to figure out revenues that the star bond will generate. She's been able to provide a lot of really good data for us. It's also been a project that's been happening for a while now, and that's been in partnership with Deborah, who had some, and Mayor Gates, who've had some of the, Deborah Tufel from the Chamber, who had some of the early conversations with the Department of Commerce. Also, Laura Meyer-Dick and Jim Raymer and Mayor, you attended a meeting with us, with Justin Perjean, with the Department of Commerce, where we met with Lieutenant Governor, where he approved the beginning of this process. So just a lot of moving parts for this project to happen. Really grateful for that. But yeah, excited to have that public hearing on September 17th. So if there are no more questions, we would recommend approval of the resolution of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, stating that the city is considering the establishment of a star bond project district within an eligible area of the city and providing for notice for a public hearing to consider such establishment under the authority of the Star Bond Act.
Thank you, Dave. And it is hard to believe this is only step one after an initial meeting in April.
Right.
So anyway, if there's not any other questions, I would stand for.
I move to accept and approve the resolution to hold public hearing for establishment of a star bond project district and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Naggers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes. Before we have the next item, can we take a 5-minute recess? All right. Thank you. Be right back.
Audience is out of hand.
The audience is out of hand.
Stephen Beer, Hutchinson Fire Chief. Before I get into this, Council, I just want to personally thank you on behalf of HFD for your decision this morning. It really comes down, when you look at the 300 and some calls that fire and police protecting our men and women is of the utmost importance, and I thank you for that. With that being said, a few months ago, I brought in 2 top officials from the Kansas Forestry Service, if you remember that, to talk about the inherent dangers that we face in the city of Hutchinson. This is something I've been wanting to do since the day I got here in 2017. I actually couldn't believe that the city had a burn permit process and there was open burning actually allowed inside the city limits. With that being said, our existing burn ordinance is very vague to the most, for the general person, I guess here. We allow recreational fires and portable outdoor fireplaces, but somebody can request a burn permit to burn debris, typically limbs, twigs, and stuff like that. Over the last 2.5 years here, you can see from 2022 up to the current day here, we average about 58, let's look at 2023 here, 58 burn permits within the city. The yellow column is actually the number of people that have applied. So what that tells us really is that some of these people are applying multiple times a year to burn debris on their property and stuff like that. So the numbers that we're actually affecting for over the last few years here is 32 and 22, 29 individuals applied, and so far this year there's been 18 individuals apply for a burn permit in the city. That really comes out to, when we do the math of that, and that's why I'm sort of like, with this one, I'm all for, you know, the town hall meetings, public discussion on things. But when it comes to life safety and property conservation, I think this is one that just, it again affects life safety. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing at 0.0007% of Hutchinson's population. So that's how many upset people we might have on this whole thing here when you look at the total population of Hutch. Unauthorized burns, these are ones that people basically light off in their yard. And I can give you an example of that. We've had one recently where the property owner thought he could burn his yard off to get rid of his stickers. So they just started taking a torch and burning off their property, and pretty soon the fence is on fire. It melts the siding of the house on fire, stuff like that. So these are all the ones that we respond to over the years here that just people just did whatever they wanted to do without listening to the ordinance. Grass fires in the city here, you can sort of see here too, we average usually 40 some grass fires within the city. People think that it's always a rural issue, and we run them in town here all the time too. I have enough problems just dealing with the railroads and the trains going through town, starting fires along the railroad tracks, discarded cigarettes and stuff like that to worry about. Sorry. Got some. All right. And so these additional grass fires create problems for us in the city here. Again, we see they get away and they start other structures on fire within town here. Technology. Well, I don't have a video like Dave. Dave left here, so I can't compete with him. Yeah, it's frozen.
Let me restart everything. This one?
Nope, the one before that. This is just a quick snapshot of the stuff we deal with in the city here. This fire happened here just a few months ago, and this almost became one of the biggest environmental impacts in the city of Hutchinson. If our men and women want to put this thing out real soon, I'm not going to get into the specifics where it was exactly, but we avoided a major environmental disaster.
Was a burn permit applied for in this instance?
No.
No.
As I talked about earlier, the Kansas State Forest Service has identified Hutchinson, particularly the north and northeast, the wildfires. And we're comparable to, if you watch any of the news lately here in the last month or two, you see some of the big subdivisions in some of these cities to our neighbors to the west in Colorado, where they lost 300 homes. This is reality, and this is stuff that we currently deal with. And so, again, they're the experts in the field here. We value them. They're part of our office out at where my office is, and we listen to what they have to say. Right now, the item on the left is what we issue for a burn permit. It's just a one-page document, and it just goes over the ordinance, and the signature by typically the fire marshal or my inspector will sign that. The one on the right is when we do like the mitigation burns, like if we're going to burn off 30th Street, probably, or up Plum Street, each of them areas require dozens and dozens of papers to properly document even a mitigation burn for us. And so really we got a little burn permit on this side, but yet when we're doing our prescribed burns, we got to fill all this stuff out to make it sure that everything is documented and done right. Some of the surrounding counties that have some different ordinances like that, I had fire marshal go around and actually check here. A lot of them have feet distance from structures. And they do that, if you look at that on a city lot, they're impractical, so they can't burn. If you look at McPherson here, down here, there's no burning allowed except for recreational fires in commercial containers. And that's one thing I want to make clear here in this whole ordinance change here too, is that we're not looking to take away recreational fires, burning permits. I want kids, adults to go out and cook marshmallows and have their s'mores and cook hot dogs over an open fire, but I want you to do it safe and stuff like that. So I think this is reasonable what we're asking here today when we look at our comparable cities. Like Wichita, even 250 feet from any property line, structure, or roadway, or within 2 miles of an airport. Yeah, there's some definitely strict guidelines. Our proposed ordinance, which you have in your packet, I talked about the prescribed burns. Well, that'll be an exception to this when authorized by the fire marshal to do that. The Hutchinson Fire Department will conduct live fire trainings out at our training facility yet, and then the necessary burns we need to do at the airport. to support that air travel and stuff like that. Otherwise, we were asking basically for no fires allowed in the city. And one thing that I want to back up here too a minute was that what we noticed, and Fire Marshal Kane brought this up, is that when we had the storm damage this spring here in the summer, and when the city opened like the sports arena for people to drop off stuff, we didn't see any jump in our burn permits. And so that meant to us that people were actually hauling their stuff to the sports arena and different things. And that's what we want, to haul them to the dump, haul them to when the sports arena gets opened up and stuff like that. So I'm not going to read this word for word for you. Like I said, it was in your packet. But again, we're not limiting, and I think that's probably the biggest thing, we're not limiting the residential recreational fires. One of the things that we will do, if approved, we will have copies of the ordinances available at each of the fire stations where citizens can stop by. They can pick them up. Between now and the first of the year, we'll put a message on our electronic signboard up at Station 1 on Main Street. We'll post it on all city and HFD's social medias. And we're also open to a grace period here between now and the end of the year just to educate our people. If we have to go back numerous times to an individual's place, that's a different story. But if it's a first-time repeat offender on something, we'll give them grace here till the first of the year if approved here. I think there's one more on, I think that's it. So with that, I have my fire marshal here, my ops chief. If you have any questions for me or any of us, I'd be happy to answer at this time.
Do you think this will change the behavior of folks that aren't going to get a burn permit anyway, or you know?
Yeah, I do. I think when I look at some of the, I've got a whole stack of fire reports here, and when you look at some of the issues that my men and women face on the repeat offenders, basically, even though they put in for a permit, the neighbor will call them in. Because of the smoke. I got my windows open, it's a nice summer day, and now I got smoke blowing in my windows. We hear all the conversations with, I got asthma, and my neighbor's lighting off a pile in his backyard here. And with the unburned stuff that we see, and I think it's just an educational thing, we see people burning couches in the city. Right downtown here, we see people burning chairs in the city. You name it, they're burning in their backyard, burning copper off at night. We've had numerous ones of them in the city here. And so we're trying to eliminate all this, but I think if we can really do a good educational campaign to educate our people about the no burn ordinance and educate the 29 regulars, and I would put it so far as that our regular people, we know, we have a list of that, and that we personally call them and just let them know of the change so everybody's aware of what we're looking to do here.
Well, I'm not typically for trying to legislate behavior. But I appreciate your leadership, and I know that we are making headway out east of town with the, you know, a perimeter around houses with clearing all of that out. I'm just saying, the fire department, Hutchinson Fire Department, has done a good job of educating people and trying to help people through this without an iron fist, and I think it's making a difference. Scott, you work out there a lot too. I've seen numerous places where there is a 100-foot, you know, space that you can actually protect their homes now. So I feel like this is fine.
I do have a question for you on the recreational burning for fire pits and outdoor fireplaces. That's all pertaining just wood burning, correct?
Correct.
And then it's on here says too that moving forward they would have to be underground fire pits if they're.
That's just one option.
That's just one option.
In the ground, they can be the commercial ones you buy at Lowe's or Home Depot that stand in your driveway. That's what I actually have.
Okay.
It's like a 2-foot round one with a spark thing over the top of it. You know, so that's the biggest part of with the recreational fires is now in the ordinance is you'll see a distance. So right in the past here, we've had them start a campfire basically 5 feet away from a fence, a wooden fence, and pretty soon an ember starts the grass on fire, burns up to the fence, and the fence is on fire. We're asking for people to keep their burn permits 25 feet away from any combustible. So instead of having it right by your house, right by your fence, stuff like that, is just 25 feet away from anything that's combustible.
Yeah, and I was just wanting clarity for community members so they kind of aware of what this is going to look like. So it's not like, oh, we're taking all your fire pits away. So
No, that's one thing I want to make clear. We're not taking, I burn in the fall and spring in our driveway all the time with the neighbors and stuff like that. And it's, you know, I would never want to take that opportunity away from the kids in the community.
And did it say something there about on red flag days you'll
Red flag days, and that's been existing right now. There is no burning in the city at all, even
fire pits
recreational
or-
fires. Yeah.
So how are people made aware of that? I understand you should be
Yeah.
like aware of it.
The news is really good. If you watch any news station, they're always say Kansas, Reno County is under a red flag day today. We put it on our sign now down there. Each of the fire stations fly by the American flag. They fly a red triangle flag on any red flag days. So there's all different media outlets too that we try to broadcast that out.
Okay.
How would you interpret a tree or a tree canopy in regards to distance?
Tree or tree canopy, Mike, you got any expertise on that? Yeah.
Well, I was guessing that, especially in the fall. But no, I mean these are, you know, okay. I'm 25 feet from the house. I'm 25 feet from the garage. I'm 10 feet from the fence, but there's a tree in the backyard, and it's 25 feet over there. The canopy's 5 feet away.
The thing is, underneath the tree, and just tongue in cheek, but underneath the tree is going to be even worse than up next to, because where does fire and heat go? It goes up. So it's not going to take long to heat even at 10 feet above. People are going to keep feeding that fire. It's going to stay hot, and so it's going to take long.
I just wanted to know how to interpret that in the distance aspect.
Yeah, and there's gonna. I think
Other
it's
than
gonna-
there's
it's
some
still
things that you're just
subjective.
gonna have to just
you know, it's
know
still
better than to do something
right.
like
It's
this.
common sense. There's still subjectivity to this ordinance in that way. But I think in the big part of the picture here is, you know, with the cost of fuel, our equipment and stuff, I'm trying to look at every possible call we go on to reduce our costs. And if I can save another 100 and some runs a year, that's when our trucks get 2 miles a gallon or whatever they get, 5 miles a gallon. We need to reduce our call volume, and we did that with our medical calls here recently last year. And so any opportunity we get to reduce our call volume, I think it's a win for the city.
So there's no fines built into this.
There will be if,
Okay.
after the grace period is up here, and the fines will be subject to, Paul, you want to touch on that, how that works?
That was my next question is, so there isn't like a dollar attached to being out of compliance with this. So is there a particular like misdemeanor that this
It's
would be?
in the fire
or-
code as far as your fines.
Okay. Do you know what the dollar amount is?
No.
Okay.
Recreational burning on your red, when your red flag comes up, recreational burning can't be burned either, or it can?
Cannot.
Okay.
It cannot.
That's
Usually
all.
that's when the winds are over 40 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour. We get into the red flag days. In our wildfire season here too, you got to remember now, it used to be just in the spring, January, February, and especially March. But 6 days after the first hard frost, usually in October, November, really starts our wildfire season. So it's all winter long, all the way up to green up in the spring. Our biggest fear is with our subdivisions on the perimeter of town. If somebody has one of these approved fires and it gets away on a windy day, and we've had people burning in 50-mile-an-hour winds right in the city, core of the city, in their backyards on them days, and you think common sense would kick in that it's too windy to burn, but we still get called. And so we're just trying to be proactive and prevent numerous houses from burning down, because once on a windy day like that in a downtown area or in the city block type stuff, we have one house on fire, pretty soon 2, 3, 4, and the block is on fire on them windy days. And that's just reality, and that's what we're seeing out west. That's what our guys are reporting when they come back from the wildland fires that they're coming back from, of the mass destruction and it's just residential homes. City's burning down, actually.
Any other comments or a motion?
Stacy's been doing all the motions
I was gonna
today.
say, I guess I can read them. I move to approve an ordinance pertaining to open burning, recreational fires, and portable outdoor fireplaces, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second that.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Batson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item?
8E, consider ordinance adopting the standard traffic ordinance for Kansas City.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. I know you wait for this annual event and you have to control your enthusiasm, but here it is. The standard traffic ordinance for 2024, and there's very few changes to it. And not everybody has seen these books. I know we have some new people on the council. All the folks in the police department actually carry these. If you're looking for these provisions, they are not with the city code. They are on the police department's webpage with the links on there for both the STOs, standard traffic ordinances, and the Uniform Public Offense Code. So if you're looking for those, and I know we have a council member that just reads all kinds of things, so I know she wanted to know that information. So here we go with the changes between 2023 and 2024. See, you missed me from last time, so. All right. A couple of them are just really text amendments. One's a clarification, and one was an error in the terms of the section of the standard traffic ordinance, because they talk about all-terrain vehicles, and then they were actually talking about a worksite utility vehicle, so they changed those. The one significant change has to do with failing to comply with a traffic citation. When that occurs in municipal court and a fine has been imposed and they don't pay it or respond, you can send that to the state and they will suspend their driving privileges. Okay? Well, there's kind of a problem with that. There's lots of folks that get their license suspended, but they have to go to work, so they drive anyway. And it still doesn't help with the fines. So they're trying to strike a balance with that in the state statutes, and it's reflected in these. It looks like a lot, but it's really just taking away offenses, and you don't suspend their license anymore if they don't comply. But if you look at the offenses, they're kind of in categories: pedestrian violations, parking violations, bicycle violations, which are not strictly vehicle-related type violations, which you cannot suspend their license anymore. And they've also reduced so that the license reinstatement fee is a flat $100 instead of $100 per charge. And the reason they kind of strike a balance is, you know, as a practical matter, one of the most effective ways of collecting fines for the municipal court is to suspend somebody's license. They find out they're suspended and they go pay the fine so they can get their license reinstated. Legislature kind of made a little bit of a balance, but they're trying to help the problem of those who continue to drive on suspended licenses. And that's pretty much it for the 2024 STOs.
Very good. If I remember correctly, last year the talk was flying an airplane after drinking or something. No changes to that?
No,
right.
No, that's still a problem.
Do I have a motion and a second to approve the new traffic ordinance?
I will move to approve an ordinance regulating traffic within the corporate limits of the city of Hutchinson, Kansas, incorporating by reference the standard traffic ordinance for Kansas City's 51st edition, with certain omissions and changes, and providing certain penalties, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second that.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Batson?
Yes.
Item 8F, consider ordinance adopting the Uniform Public Defense Code for Kansas City.
And now we have the equally exciting 2024 Uniform Public Offense Code. And the changes here, really just a couple. One is which on disorderly conduct, the Kansas Supreme Court knocked out the noisy conduct provision of disorderly conduct. And that was because and I'm going to speak poorly of Wichita, they arrested basically a protester and charged with them with disorderly conduct for their noisy conduct, but they were a protester. And so they took it all the way up and got it to the Kansas Supreme Court, said, nope, that portion violates the First Amendment privileges, it's unconstitutionally overbroad, and we're going to strike that portion of the statute, which they did. And so one of the changes in the Uniform Public Defense Code is to take out the little provision that said noisy conduct. And counsel, for your own information, working on that a little bit. I've got a listserv out to other cities to see what they're doing. I was hoping at the time, since the legislature was still in session, that they might fine-tune that statute to address what the Supreme Court had done. That did not occur, but I'm starting to get some responses from other cities about what they're doing with that, and I will review those with the Chief of Police before we do anything else. The further change in the Uniform Public Offense Code has to do with these 3 drug violations that they're showing here. The main purpose of this is not to punish those who are seeking medical assistance because they have a what I'll call a drug episode. It could be an overdose. It could be, you know, fentanyl. But they have an emergency and they need help. Well, we don't want to punish those who are seeking medical assistance because of this problem and then charge them. You're in possession of drugs. Well, wait a minute. I went to the hospital because I was OD'd, or others who helped them. And so they've kind of given an immunity from prosecution for that unless it's an amount that is would be considered an intent to distribute because of the volume of drugs that are involved. The other side of that coin is it requires a judgment call on the part of law enforcement officers. You know, well, should I charge them or not? Was this about getting medical assistance, or are they just trying to avoid a prosecution for drug possession? So they've given the law enforcement officers immunity from civil actions, so that, you know, when they make that judgment call, it's not going to be used against them. That's pretty much the changes to the Uniform Public Offense Code, and I'd ask the council to approve that.
Have a motion and a second on that?
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance regulating public offenses within the corporate limits of the city of Hutchinson, Kansas, incorporating by reference the Uniform Public Offense Code for Kansas cities, 40th edition, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes. Next item.
Item G, consider ordinance granting to Evergy Incorporated an electric franchise.
And here's something that definitely doesn't come along very often, renewing a franchise ordinance for our electric provider, which is now called Evergy. It's been called several things in the past contract. The real significance of this for the city is the maintenance of our franchise tax, which is 5%. That's what's being proposed in this renewal ordinance as well. There are really no changes in the terminology. So that, and by the way, 5%, that's the going rate for franchise taxes. And then there have been some who have tried to increase those things. Well, after we pass the ordinance, the utility has to decide whether or not they're going to accept it. And there was some action in the legislature for those who were trying to get those increased fees about capping those. And so 5%, it's appropriate, and we should renew it at that rate. And it's also an important source of revenue for the city. And you've seen our budgeting figures. You see the franchise fees. And then it's unrelated to some of the other sources, so it's not always impacted by the economy. So I'd ask the council to approve the franchise ordinance, and it goes for another 20 years with Evergy.
Okay. Have a motion and a second for that item.
I move to approve an ordinance granting to Evergy an electric franchise and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Hutchinson.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Biggers.
Yes.
Dodd.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes. New business?
Item 9A, consider 25-05, State Fair Detention Project Design Update and Amenities Recommendation.
Good morning. Good morning, Council. Evan Patterson, Project Manager for the City of Hutchinson Public Works Department. Excuse me. This presentation is intended to provide an update on the status of the State Fair Detention Basin project, and also we seek your approval for the design proceeding to be developed with the amenities that we're going to recommend during the presentation. I'm cognizant of your time, so the presentation summarizes the information in your packets. There's more detail supporting the memo, and we have a number of the project team members here, so if you'd like to ask questions, we certainly have the resources to get into detail, but I wanted to provide the relevant information in the presentation. So today, I want to go over the complete conceptual design, review the amenities that we discussed with the public, and present the ones that we recommend for inclusion with the next phase of design, provide an update on the cost of the project, and show you where we're at on the schedule. The conceptual design is similar to what was envisioned in the Stormwater Master Plan. The location of the basin is the same. The discharge from the basin to the east side channel is the same. However, we spent a lot of time during the conceptual phase of the project evaluating alternate routes for the outflow from the east side channel into the basin itself. The current route has the least number of utility conflicts. However, it does primarily go through land owned and operated by USD 308 School District. So we've begun negotiating with them on potential scheduling issues and phasing of work, and the route itself is not entirely set. We may look at navigating around some of the structures that they use the most frequently, but for better or worse, this is two, at the moment, large 48-inch conduits that'll be going through the ground, and wherever we end up routing, it's going to cause some disruption to activity. So phasing of that work is really going to be key to developing the minimum amount of impact to a number of entities, including the school district. During the conceptual design, we also revisited the hydrological analysis and mapped potential benefits in the area of the State Fair Detention Basin. We also analyzed benefits downstream in the East Side Channel. There are two potential future projects, the 17th and Lorraine project and the 3rd and K61 project that may tie into the East Side Channel. And when they do, they'll add a lot more water to the channel. So we evaluated water surface levels in the channel downstream, both with and without the inclusion of the State Fair Detention Basin. And when we add those two projects and we don't have the detention basin, the water levels in the East Side Channel do show an increase. So there's a significant impact, even potentially upstream, depending on what those projects look like. With the State Fair Detention Basin, the loss or the addition of water is mitigated by the State Fair Detention Basin. This map in particular shows impacts to the neighborhoods around the State Fair Basin to water surface elevations for a 10-year storm. The basin primarily affects 2-year and 10-year storms. The 50 acre-foot volume has less of an impact for 100-year storms just because there's so much more water coming downstream at that point. But the yellow area shows where locations will see a reduction in water surface levels. The dots, the colored dots, indicate the order of magnitude. Some areas see a negligible decrease, while others can see over a foot decrease, particularly along 23rd and along Severance in the area of the basin. We held a public participation meeting at the end of June to review the potential amenities. And this slide and the subsequent slides are the ones we presented. This is an overview of the basin itself. excuse me, 23rd is on the upper side of the drawing. You can see the water treatment plant over here at the upper right, and it's bounded by Severance on the east, the tree line that splits the State Fair property on the west, and then the tennis courts and the parking lot on the south side. The basin receives flow up on the upper side of the drawing and then discharges back into the channel on the lower right. The 50 acre-foot volume was confirmed at this point in the design, and that's what's sufficient for the State Fair to receive the benefits to their stormwater fees under our agreement with them. There are two amenities that we discussed but didn't evaluate with the public. During the comment period, someone brought up potential lighting along the paths, and we felt that was perhaps left for a later date. And the other issue is that on the south side, Parks and Rec Director Justin Combs has a tentative future plan to include some outdoor exercise equipment. We felt that wasn't necessarily appropriate for this project itself. We're going to block out that area, so he's allowed to do that in the future if he'd like. This slide shows two of the amenities that we reviewed with the public. We looked at two different types of trails, a loop trail around the perimeter, and then an interpretive trail that goes through the basin itself. They're both about a half a mile long. Excuse me, the loop trail is 10-foot wide concrete, and the interpretive trail is 6 foot wide, made out of crushed bonded stone. We evaluated the potential uses of both. The loop trail ties into existing sidewalks and into the parking lot on the south side, provides a nice connection, place for recreation, and the interpretive trail allows visitors to get closer into the basin to some of the ecosystems that we're also planning to include in the basin. So we felt that both of these amenities were worthwhile as recommendations. This slide shows three other amenities that we considered. We considered natural stone benches located strategically along the two paths. We also considered a terrace seating area in the basin, and then we also looked at having educational signage within the basin describing the various ecosystems. We felt that the two benching seating styles were redundant, and the terrace seating might be more appropriate for a venue that's having events. So we decided to include the natural stone benches and not the terrace seating in our recommendation. The educational signage, the benefit of that depends on how many visitors we're going to have to the basin, and we're not really sure about that yet, so we felt it'd be best to defer that until later on. We can always add those. We did also include 4 different ecosystems in the design of the basin, and those ecosystems are wet prairie, sand prairie, rolling plains, and floodplain forest. These represent local ecosystems with local plants. They're bordered by both trail types, and they allow for all sorts of benefits, including preventing erosion inside the basin, absorbing excess nutrients, stabilizing soil, and they also provide food, shelter, and breeding grounds for a variety of wildlife. So we felt this is an important part of the design as well. The base cost of the project, not including any of the amenities, is currently estimated at $4,975,000. Includes the consulting firm's fees and the estimated contracted cost. If you include in the amenities that we're recommending, we're sitting at $4,975,000. Oh, I'm sorry, the base cost is $4,559,000. Sorry about that. We've been carrying $5.1 million in the CIP plan since the 2017 Stormwater Master Plan, so we're still in the same range. This is the current project schedule as of our last coordination meeting. The red line shows you where we're at. As you can see, we've finished the geotech evaluation, the hydrology model review, and the conceptual plan development. And we're getting ready to head into preliminary design. We have a 60% submittal due at the end of October, and that's when we'll hold a constructability review. Construction scheduled to begin sometime early next year, carry throughout 2025, and complete in March 2026 in accordance with our agreement with the State Fair. That's it. Any questions?
Will that ever be completely dry?
Yes. We don't intend for it to hold water. So it has two 48-inch conduits that'll bring water in, and the water level should be sloped so that the drain, which is a much smaller 24-inch, will remove most of the water. However, we all know sometimes how that works. There will be some standing areas.
Will there ever be a situation where it fills up over the trails and whatnot?
Yes, yes, it will, and that's why the interpretive trails are constructed differently. When it hits, I think in a 2-year storm event, something like 40-some% of the water coming down the east side channel ends up in the basin. So it'll hit 50 acre feet in a 10-year event.
But in a 2-year event, it will go over the interpretive trail. What would that do for resetting those ecosystems every 2 years?
So we've talked a lot about that, and they're all designed to accept intermediate flooding. Okay. We also talked specifically with Justin Combs to make sure that the maintenance for this kind of growth matched what he felt was appropriate for his crews, and it actually may decrease it a little bit. I think right now you're mowing it a couple of times a year, and we may even only be mowing it once or twice once we've.
I know it'll come up, but are we creating a mosquito ecosystem for the people walking around the trails?
That was something that they talked about in the meeting, and I had the handout, but I left it on my desk. It only holds water for like 48 hours, right? Before it moves
really
on.
Just for the duration of the storm. You'll get some standing water, but that's also part of the purpose of the plant communities is to help promote infiltration as well. Now, if the ground gets saturated, we may end up with that, but no different from what you'd have in your yard as well.
Just real quick on the maintenance piece of it, this will be less maintenance than what we're doing now, because right now we're mowing that entire field. I don't know the exact schedule, but probably on a 2 to 3 week, depending on rain. And so now we will only be mowing along the trail, so just 6 feet on either side of on the path on about that same schedule. So it'll be a significant decrease in the amount of time we're spending in that large field. Also, if you're familiar with the site, there are ball fields there now. So as part of this project, we will look at renovating existing ball fields so that those practices that are held at those 2 fields at Fairgrounds can move to other locations within the city. Been working with Hutchinson to try to identify which locations make the most sense. The fields at Fairgrounds are not used for games or any competition, just practice. So we just want to make sure we're replacing that amenity with this project.
Is that included in the funds?
Yes.
You mentioned that the conduit bringing water in is 48 inches?
2 48 inches, yeah.
2 of them, okay. Can you guys go back to the slide that shows the path?
I don't know.
Go back up one.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just using the mouth. Other way.
One more, please. Okay. So the one that routes through USD 308's baseball diamonds and soccer fields, you said that one has the least utility interruption.
That's right. So with the water treatment plant right there on the corner of 23rd and Severance, we have a number of large diameter water lines coming into the water treatment plant and exiting it. And we're reviewing all that. So when we evaluated routes, we looked in general at 3 different routes. We looked at coming off of the south side of the traffic circle and coming around the south end of the water treatment plant. The hydrology on that doesn't work. It's a gravity system. It's just, we've dropped too far in the channel to actually be able to get over to the location of the detention basin to be able to hold enough water. So we can't really go south. The other option is to tie in just north of the traffic circle and then come basically along 23rd and then drop in. That's still a viable option, but there's a bunch of utilities along 23rd that we need to reroute or interrupt. This third route, going farther north into 308's property, does avoid a number of those, but there are still significant conflicts with utilities. So none of these routes are necessarily a clear winner. We're now looking at interrupting potential athletic events on the school district's facilities, so coordinating all that is a big deal. We also have to look at, we have 3 road crossings here. We're crossing Severance when we first tie in. We're crossing 23rd when we're coming into the basin. And then we're crossing Severance again when we go out. All that work will have to be coordinated with the state fair because we need to have those roads operable when the state fair is in session. So phasing this work is a big deal.
People on Severance are going to want that road open for a little bit longer before we close it back down again.
Yes. My
Throw
in-laws
that out
actually
there.
live just northeast of there.
Yeah.
They maybe commented on that once or twice. Yeah. So coordinating these activities is a big deal. We've actually talked about splitting off some of the work as a separate contract just to get started on it earlier so we can manage the impacts perhaps over a longer schedule so that we're not interrupting either traffic or access to events or the soccer and baseball fields.
Is the route through the USD 308 property an easement?
It would have to be an easement, yep.
Well, so it's not just a potential conflict. It's 100% guaranteed that it's going to be a conflict for the district. I've asked for and read through the email chain. The district just found out 5 days ago that this was even being considered, and I don't think that we've given them enough time to wrap their mind around what does this interruption look like, because it isn't just a matter of going and digging a hole and putting a pipe in. You have to grow the grass. You have to repair all the sprinklers. There is electrical and fiber through there as well.
That's right.
And no offense, but when projects like this happen, they aren't left in the condition that they were found. So the grass is going to need a lot of work, and it's going to need a lot of TLC. And I know that our guys have put in a lot of work over the past year, 2 years to get it to where it is now, which is to make it playable. You also have other organizations who play there, YMCA, Hutchinson Soccer, Club Missouri, HCC. So it isn't just to say we're going to have to move a couple of soccer games around. It's going to be a huge interruption to the community, not just to the school. This whole project has been in the works since March 2023 and even longer. But like I said, the district was only made aware of this 5 days ago. I would ask the council to not vote on or to table this today to allow the school district more time to consider what this looks like and what type of impact this has for them.
Would this, I mean, I don't know if it's an easement, what the school district would have to say about this, because, I mean, we just will move it because the school district is going to be disrupted for a bit?
This is an easement?
It's not, we have an existing easement, but not for this.
Okay.
We have, I think,
Thank
raw
you.
water line that runs through the property.
Right.
Not only that, we want to be good neighbors to the school district, so there are a number of considerations beyond schedule. We've also looked at potentially tweaking the route. Is this necessarily going to be ideal? No, but we can always navigate perhaps south if the soccer field is truly the critical use of that property. We could look at working around the soccer field. It maybe complicates the project a little bit, but it's the sort of negotiations that we've begun with the school district that we do have to take into account.
The other issue is that the school district is putting up a bond of $110 million. This site is the preferred location for that bond to build a 6, 7, 8 middle school. And if you're going to dig this up to put this 48-inch pipe there, and then they're going to break ground in, let's say hypothetically, 12 months, it seems like there's going to be a conflict there between the depth of this pipe versus the unknown depth that they're going to need to put a two-story building or parking lot or whatever they need to put on that site. So it just feels like this hasn't been in good partnership with the district. It just feels a little premature.
Okay.
So in between, I think it's actually a duplex, and then Hutch Health and Rehab. Is that one of the alternate paths that was considered?
Potentially. So to break it down to what we're really considering is the lines coming into the water treatment plant all combine roughly, I think, about this point that lines up with the east side of the USD 308 warehouse. It's a very large, it's a 36-inch diameter water line that goes into the water treatment plant. And in order to cross that, you would incur significant risk to the operation of the water treatment plant itself. So we're trying to avoid that 36-inch line. The raw water line comes down here, and coming down in the area where you're talking about would require us to cross that water line multiple times. That's manageable. So we could potentially look at bringing the water line over here and avoiding more of the 308 property. The problem we have is on the north side of this rehab facility, there's not a lot of space between that and the raw water line for us to squeeze in our conduits. We think we have to go on the north side of the raw water line there. So that pushes us out potentially into the 308 property.
So from my understanding today, we are approving as designed. Or could we approve it and maybe negotiate with
the only part of the design that I think would be approved today would be the amenities at the basin itself, because it is really premature to set a path for the outlet from the east side channel over to the basin. Depending on what plans the district has for the potential middle school, this may be a no-go anyway. If for some reason they wanted to put a basement all the way on the south side of their property, obviously that would be a conflict. And we do have other options. Like I said, we'd evaluate going along 23rd. It's a lot messier, but it's doable.
What was the community sentiment at the community meeting that was held?
That was
was
really focused on the amenities.
Yes. What did the community say during that meeting? There was a school board meeting at the same time, so I couldn't attend.
Sure. We actually provide a summary in here of the comments. It wasn't hugely attended, so I can review real quick some of the comments that we got. Let me see here. Some of the ones we received. I think this is a great idea, and I like the natural space. I'm always a fan of outdoor workout space. This looks like a great addition to our neighborhood. Not sure if this system is needed when Hutchinson has so many other greater needs for our tax dollars. And this sounds to me to be a worthwhile project. So again, not perhaps as in-depth as we would have liked, but
any other comments from council?
This doesn't have any effect on our Cow Creek water issues at all.
no, they're significantly far apart, and they're different kinds of work anyway.
And this project is not dependent upon that project happening first. We're moving forward with this one.
Yeah. This one does have, in our agreement with the state fair, we had committed to having the works for this substantially complete by March of 2026. So there's an opportunity to modify that if we need to, but it requires going back to the state fair.
I have two questions. I'm sitting here thinking, number one, did we offer the school system to sit on this? Have they been with meetings on the design at all, sitting there at all?
I'd approached them maybe a couple of weeks ago, but it was only a couple of days ago that I sent the first tranche of information over to Keith Schroeder.
Correct.
Yeah. As a introduction to a series of meetings, because anything like this would involve a period of coordination before both parties accepted a design. So we've just begun that, but yes, we plan on it.
And the next question I got, the reason we're doing this is because this is a runoff, am I right, from the water in that side of town, and it goes in this detention pond, am I right?
Yes.
That's why we're doing this. So actually, we're going to be doing two things. On the south side, we're going to be doing the Cow Creek renovation, getting the water out in Cow Creek. Am I right? Doing Cow Creek?
Yep.
And on the north side, we're going to do this retention pond. Am I right? That's the whole reason why we're doing all this stuff. Correct?
Yes.
I see. I just sitting here thinking, I think if it's going to involve in looking at building a new school here in a year or two or whatever, I think we should have 308. I would be in favor of what she says, just holding it off a little bit longer until we get with 308 and see what their opinion is to us. You saying today we're just voting on something different? We can change where the water's coming in later on, right? So maybe that we won't hurt to vote on the whatever commodities today.
Amenities, yeah.
Amenities today, and I want to make sure that we're good neighbors with 308. I want to make sure that everything's going well with 308, and we get along with them and make sure they understand what's going on, and they're buying with us. So I wouldn't have no problem. I just vote for the communities today and get with 308, and before we move on later on, make sure we're a good partnership with them.
I agree with what Steve said, and it does help the context of this that we're super early in this process. So
we are. We're only entering preliminary design, so the conceptual design was mostly evaluating the viability of all the options. So like I said, we have fallback options even if it turns out 308 just can't let us use that space. It's totally understandable. But this would let us proceed with some of the other work at the basin itself.
I mean, we're not changing it anywhere. It's going to be there regardless. This is how we feed the pond. That's the problem we're standing on right now, right?
Yes.
So,
ironically, while the public's interested in the facilities at the basin, this is the more interesting and complicated engineering problem, is how you get the water there.
Right.
Yeah, I do like the amenities within the basin, and you showed some of them there too, and they're in our packet. I think those look nice, and if I lived in that area, I would much rather have that versus flooding down the street or possibly in your own backyard. So, and I do appreciate the work that you guys have put into this for sure, and I also appreciate the public meeting that was held to speak with the citizens. So I like the idea. I just want to make sure we get it right.
Absolutely. And it really is, it has to be done as a partnership.
all right, do anybody want to make a motion and a second to proceed?
Paul, would that be a motion to table, or?
It depends on if you want to table it.
I would like to motion to table. What do I do? What do I say?
Well, you'd have to make a motion and you'd have to have a second.
Okay, I move to table this agenda item.
and I'll give you the second.
Thank you.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Hager?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9B, consider memorandum of understanding for the Landmark Building Development Project.
Hello, Council again. Dave Sotelo, Director of Strategic Growth. As you know, Meyer Landmark is planning a significant renovation of the Landmark building at 501 North Main Street, converting it into 36 apartment units with first floor retail space. This is a transformative project for a downtown area, and the developer has requested several financial incentives to support the project. Given the number of incentives involved, such as RHID, IRBs, CID, MIH, grant, ARPA grant, and STAR bonds, that's quite the soup of words here we got. The complexity of the project requires a structure approach. Therefore, staff recommends that we begin by preparing a memorandum of understanding or an MOU. This MOU will serve as a framework outlining each of the requested incentives, their estimated dollar amounts, duration, and structures. It will provide the council with a clearer overview of the various incentives that will be presented for approval over the coming months, and some of them have already been presented to you. The MOU is a non-binding agreement but gives a solid foundation to work from as we proceed with formal agreements. The goal of the MOU is to bring clarity and organization to the process, ensuring that the council can make informed decisions about the use of these financial tools. It allows us to address each incentive at a high level before diving into these specifics. This MOU will help facilitate the redevelopment of the Landmark building and will ensure that we maintain oversight and flexibility through the process. So, if happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, staff recommends the approval of this MOU with Mayor Landmark. And we do have the developers here if you're interested in hearing from them. But this is just, you'll see second item following this that structures the funding agreement of how we do this. And we do this when we have a development project like Landmark, where we structure what we are planning to work on and who's responsible for what. And then we have a funding agreement that follows the structures, the way in which the city will pay the consultants that we use, like the bond council and others, as we present this development agreements to do. There's a lot of work that goes on to do research and the structure of the deals, and so that cost goes to the developer. And so we're structuring the MOU that will outline those incentives, and then following that, a funding agreement for it.
I don't have any questions on the MOU.
Any comments, questions? Not, motion.
I move to accept and approve the memorandum of understanding for the Landmark Building Development Project and authorize the mayor to sign.
A second.
Richardson.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Magers.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Yes.
Item 9C, consider funding agreement for Meyer Landmark LLC project.
All right. We have in front of you a funding agreement for the Landmark building redevelopment. This developer owns the historic Landmark building at 501 North Main Street and plans to transform it into 36 units with first floor retail space. This project will play a significant role in our ongoing efforts to revitalize downtown Hutchinson. Mayor Landmark LLC has requested the city consider several financial incentives to support the project. As the city can review this request, certain administrative costs must be covered. This funding agreement sets up a foundation on how these costs are covered. Under this agreement, the developer will deposit $20,000 into a fund. These funds will be used by the city to pay for the administrative staff, outside counsel, and consultant necessary to evaluate the developer's request. Additionally, the agreement provides a mechanism for replenishing the fund as needed. The developer will cover all costs related to reviewing the incentive request and preparing necessary documents, ensuring that the city is not financially burdened during this process. This agreement is designed to protect the city's financial interests as we proceed with evaluating this important economic development opportunities. Staff recommends the approval of this funding agreement, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, the developer is here if you have questions for them as well.
The gist of it is there's going to be funds to take care of our costs to make sure we're doing what we can for the development.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with someone paying our costs to take care of that.
Any other comments? A motion?
I'd make a motion to accept and approve the funding agreement for the Meyer Landmark LLC project and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Magers.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Cash.
Yes.
Thank you, David.
Item 9D, consider BWS well number 25 replacement for well number 15, project 23-08.
I've been looking forward to this one the entire meeting.
Well, good morning again, council. Evan Patterson, project manager with Public Works, on behalf of the City of Hutchinson Engineering Department. The purpose of this project is to install a new well, well 25, about 25 to 30 feet north of the existing well 15 building. JEO Consulting Group has completed the design of the project. Total of 3 bids were opened on August 6th, and the low bid was received by Rise Check Drilling Company in the amount of $244,300.90. The bid is below both the engineer's estimate, which was $313,250, and the project budget. I believe we received a very favorable and competitive bid for this project, and recently Rise Check Drilling has completed work for the city of DeSoto, and they've also worked acceptably for JEO Consulting Group in Nebraska. And it's recommended that the city council approve the bid and award the project to Rise Check Drilling Company in the amount of $244,300.90.
How much deeper is the new well going to be than the old one?
I think it's the same, but I would have to look myself. I got on the project at the end, and I haven't looked at the original well drawings. I know it's same pump, same flow rate, so I think the pump set at the same level, but I don't know if the actual well is any deeper.
I mean, I'm just curious because I think that's something we need to keep in mind since 1970s, over 50 years ago, and where we're going to be at in 40 to 50 more years on the water level on the well. I'm just curious if we're going a little bit deeper.
I do
know that's
not
been
have
a
the
problem in
answer.
other wells in this area.
I don't know. I can find out and get back to you.
So essentially, the other well that it is next to was abandoned, and so these are tapping into the same resource.
Correct. Oh, yeah.
I've got a little bit more history than Evan does. So that well failed on us. The column blew out and ruined that particular well. As far as water line or water level depths, we've been monitoring that with the drought, and I would say the water table's down a couple feet, but the Equus beds, we're fortunate, very sandy soils, it recharges relatively quickly on us.
Sargent and Rice Check Drilling, they weren't very far apart.
No.
What was, like, where did Rice Check save $5,000? Like, what was the difference in these two bids?
It's a very good question. We spent some time reviewing the line items that we had. And some of that, unfortunately, is up to a contractor's discretion, depending on where they want to build buffer into their quote. So we weren't able to tell from the information we had on the bids. But the two numbers being close is good confirmation. And when I talked to DeSoto, they'd gotten a recent quote for a well. It was slightly bigger in scope, but the portion that's comparable to ours was about the same cost as well. So I'm comfortable with the price that both Rise Check and Sargent had.
I appreciate you doing that fact checking. It's very good.
Where's well 15 located at?
It's 43rd and Monroe, just a little bit west.
Okay. Is it gonna go in the same well house, or are we gonna, it is a well house there if I remember right, correct?
It is a well house. This is actually the pump's submersibles. I think it's a Grundfos is what we called out.
Okay.
So it'll be in the well itself.
Okay.
I think we're reusing, I don't remember if we're reusing the well house itself, but we're reusing some of the existing equipment because it's fine. It's just the well casing that blew out.
And it's just outside of city limits.
It's okay, yeah.
Looks like it on the map. Okay.
It's right on the border.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
I move to accept and approve the PWS well number 25 replacement for well number 15, project 23-08, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 9E, policy considerations for evening meetings.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Before you is just, I provided rationale in the brief memo, but those appear to be kind of good practices that other governing bodies have instituted that have evening meetings. So with that, I'll just kind of stand for any questions that you may have.
Hopefully my fellow council members read that. Is that agreeable to everybody? I want to be sure that we're
Having a cutoff time?
well, I mean, I'm fine with whatever. I do think that maybe for some of the reasons mentioned, we need to have our business at first and then have all the fun stuff at the end. I know that's going to cause some grief maybe for the public, but I want to do what's fiscally responsible as well. So, any other discussion? If not, we'll just go with these. We could determine how late we want to go on the weeknights. This will be a 3.5 hour meeting, 4 hours maybe by the time we walk out of here. So I believe we're starting the meeting at 5:30.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be 9:30. So
I think that makes sense because in the public comment, when you ask for public comment at the beginning, you specifically say if your comment is not related to anything on the agenda. And so if somebody is coming to speak to an agenda item, they'll do that when it matters. If it's something extra, they'll stay if it's that important to them and they want to make that public comment. So and the proclamations, I mean, I think that makes sense that
okay, well,
the rearranging.
I don't want to do the opposite of what the intent of moving the meetings to nighttime was to accomplish. Certainly don't want to do that. So, but again, it's up to the council. I would be for this. I would say we end the meetings at 10:30 at the max meeting. I mean, this has been a very lengthy meeting and we're going to be out of here.
You can almost do 10 o'clock, couldn't you? Because, I mean, for us to be able to get through all this information by 10 o'clock at night, we should be able to, I mean.
Most of our meetings are an hour or two.
Yeah, well, I think that may be changing.
Okay.
So,
Good. Off the cuff, I don't see any issues with it.
All right. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Council comments? Steve?
Okay, first thing I would like to say is let's pray for Pastor Peterson's wife. He's been a member in this city for a long time. Let's put our prayers together, and if all of us, God hears us all, she'll come through real well. Also, this Saturday, the Wednesday the 24th on the Founders, we're having our Founders Picnic. I'd like to see everybody out there. That's on 208 East Avenue B. I would assume that it's gonna have we have burgers, we have hot dogs, we have a lot of stuff out there. Get everybody together, come out there and enjoy with the Founders out there. It's 805 East Avenue B. So I'd like to see everybody out there.
What time, Steve?
Oh gosh. 4 to 7.
Saturday.
So try to get everybody out there.
Okay.
Other than that, that's one other little comment about our rules that we're kind of doing. And if it don't work, we can come back and change something. You know what I mean? So,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So as long as I got to go to, hey, that's another thing. I don't go to work that early no more. Starting Wednesday, start sleeping.
Oh, good.
That's good. So other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right,
John. Happy birthday, Nolan. That's the only thing I've got today.
We don't have a proclamation. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. He'll be thrilled to just hear that I said happy birthday.
All right, Scott.
I don't have much either. We're making progress in Orchard Park and Panorama area. Still a heavy presence for PD up there. And then there's the Hutchinson YMCA open house tonight. So it's got an exciting deal going on too. So that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Scott. And Stacy, you don't have anything? So no, go ahead.
I just want to mention that the Rice Park equipment is being torn up here within the next couple of weeks, and they'll be starting on that installation. So if that is somebody's primary park, they'll be needing to find somewhere else to go. And I recommend Vic Gearing Park right around the corner. It's cute and fun and lots of shade. And that's it.
All right. I had Southwest Bricktown Fiesta. I say it over and over again, September 21st, in the afternoon and evening there. There will be lots of food trucks, a good time. I would like to mention and share my condolences with the family of the county employee that was killed in an accident, and of course the others that were hurt in that accident. I know that it was a shock to the county. We've helped as a city. We offered to provide our services while they were shut down for three or 4 days. I will say it's been nice, the relationship that we have with the county. There were some other things that went on, reference Panorama that were mentioned before, and again, what a terrible tragedy. I can't imagine, that happening here in Hutch, and it's very sad. But one more thing I would like to thank the staff. They are constantly being asked to do things by council, by Enrico, and they've stepped up, and I appreciate that. That needs to be acknowledged. They're giving it their best shot, even though we as a council continue to ask more of them, I would say. So thank you for that. That's all I have, Enrico.
No updates from me.
All right. Thank you. We need to have 2 executive sessions, 15 minutes each. Could I get a motion for the first one?
So moved.
Does 15 minutes even get us into the room and sat down?
We're going to make that happen. Second?
I'll second.
Richardson?
Yes.
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 Yes.